welcome everyone. It is Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021. This is our regular closed session meeting of the EBMUD Board of Directors. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953E, this meeting will be conducted as a webinar and teleconference only. A physical location will not be provided for this meeting. All directors, including myself, are participating remotely. Please call roll, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman.
Present.
Director Katz.
Present.
Director McIntosh.
Here.
Director Mellon.
Present.
Director Patterson. Director Young.
Yep.
President Lenny.
I'm here. This is our time for public comment. If members of the public wish to make a public comment, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. When prompted, please state your name, affiliation if applicable, and topic. Please refrain from providing personal information such as addresses or phone numbers during public comment. If we need this information, we will have you contact staff. Secretary will call each speaker in the order received. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. However, I have the discretion to amend this time based on the number of speakers. Secretary will track the time and inform each speaker when the allotted time has concluded. Do we have any speakers, Risha?
We have one, at this time, we have one person for public comment. Eric L., you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now.
Thank you, Risha. Good morning, President Lenny and Board of Directors, General Manager Chan. This is Eric Larson, President, AFSCME Local 444. It is mid-November. It's Thanksgiving week, and we've been at contract negotiations for over 10 months, and we are still way too far apart. And not because of AFSCME Local 444. We have made ourselves available anytime, every day of the week, as the district's negotiator who is only available a few hours per week. We have been responsive to every proposal, offering counters, revisions, discussion, and deliberation. It's management who has failed to come to the table prepared to negotiate, who have failed to be responsive to our proposals. We have substantially reduced the number of proposals on the table to the very core issues. And we expect management to bring to the table meaningful responses. We report to work every day. And while others have reaped the de facto bonus through work from home commute savings, we have seen gas prices double. You have extended remote board meetings due to the hazards of COVID, and we have been subjected to mandatory testing, vaccinations, masking, and social distancing to keep safe and continue to provide critical essential services to the public. The public know and support hazard pay for frontline essential workers who cannot work from home. We haven't had a raise in over 19 months. And at the same time, prices have gone up over 6%. Gas prices have doubled. Home prices and rent are up. Fiscal year 21 district revenues were $52 million over projection. Operations, we saved $40 million under budget. And we gave $1.5 million to UC Berkeley for their innovations project. Our bonds are AAA plus. Federal grant funding for capital projects will be available through Biden's infrastructure bill, and our revenue to debt ratio far surpass the KPI. We exceed every KPI for water quality and customer satisfaction. We exceed every KPI at the district except for worker morale. It's time to increase the authority of the district's negotiator. It's time you tell the GM to pay the workers what they're worth. It's time to recognize our contribution and our sacrifice. It's time to settle this contract with a wage package that doesn't force me to work overtime or a second job just to pay rent. It's time to settle this contract with a wage package that recognizes our workforce for what they are: the best water distribution plumbers, the best heavy equipment operators, the best mechanics and operators, facility specialists, electricians, instrument techs, grounds maintenance specialists, and janitors. Return the morale to your workforce by recognizing our contribution through a fair and equitable contract that maintains pace with the increasing cost of living in the Bay Area. The annual CPI for the Bay Area in October was 5.2%, and it was 6.4% since our last raise. We need a real wage package to close our contract. Please give the authority to your negotiator. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.
We have
do
a
any
few-
other speakers?
We do. We have a few hands for public comment. So I'm going to start with Paul Irvine. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now.
Hello, board. Hello, General Manager. I just came today. My name is Paul Irvin. I'm a plumber at the district. I've been with us for 6 years. I am an essential worker. I show up every day to work to support my family, and I believe that I deserve a fair wage. And I do believe that you need to meet us at an equitable moment. We work every day. We've showed up through this pandemic. I work with unbelievably dedicated and professional people from every side of this district, and it is time for you to meet us in a way that we deserve. I stand up with a unity of 444 members, and this Bay Area has continued to increase in price. It's unbelievable how expensive it is to live here. It's impossible for me to continue on this manner without an equitable raise. Please consider the offers and the proposals we put on our table. And I just thank you for the time today to just say my piece. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Next, we have Joe Pangilinan. You should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes will start now.
Thank you, Risha. Hello, President Lenny, fellow board members, and General Manager Chan. My name is Joe Pangilinan, and I'm the Chief Steward of AFSCME Local 444. East Bay MUD employees deserve a wage that matches our skill set and the pride we have while providing the best water around. During this pandemic, the ratepayers of East...
Didn't mean to do that.
Oh, was I muted? My apologies. East Bay MUD employees deserve a wage that matches our skill set and the pride we have while providing the best water around. During this pandemic, the ratepayers of East Bay MUD must deal with many things that cause stress. The one thing that they never had to worry about was turning the faucet on and not having great water. This is due to the excellent work East Bay MUD employees perform daily. Please match our continued efforts with a much-deserved wage increase that allows your employees to survive in these inflationary times. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Matt Stimson. Should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes start now.
Yes. Hello and good morning to the board, President Lenny and Clifford Chan. My name is Matthew Stimson. I've been a wastewater treatment plant operator for 7 years, and I am a member of AFSCME Local 444. I would like to speak in favor of a wage package that allows our real wages to keep pace with the rising cost of inflation in the Bay Area. As you may know, the federal government approved a 5.9% COLA for Social Security recipients nationwide, and the cost of living increase for East Bay MUD employees living in the greater Bay Area is far higher than the national average. Additionally, I am here to argue that a first-year COLA of 6.5% as proposed by Local 444 is also not enough to keep pace with the rising cost of living in the greater Bay Area. One of the largest components of the CPI is a figure called owner equivalent rent, where homeowners are asked what they would charge themselves to rent their own home out to themselves. This figure is a major lagging indicator because the majority of homeowners do not recognize the rising rent prices in the area. I believe this figure is the main reason why everyone living in the greater Bay Area is seeing their actual costs, especially fuel, food, and rent, rising far higher than the current CPI would indicate. Please give your negotiators authority to raise our CPI wage increase to a higher level. Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Craig Jocelyn. should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Hello, board members. My name is Craig Jocelyn. I am a water plumber, distribution plumber in the North area, 444 member. I've been employed with East Bay Mud for my 28th year. I've worked in every service yard. When I started at the district back in '94, COLA ceiling was 8 to 9%. I have seen it come down several steps throughout the years. What the negotiating team is offering 444 members is a slap in the face. It is proving that we're not worth anything to you. And I do recommend that you please look to giving them the authority to raise their ceiling, as you're aware how difficult it is to find employees now. Plumber applications used to be passed out by 2,500. Now you're lucky if you get 200 people applying. You cannot hire HEOs because nobody will come and work at these wages. You're digging the district into a hole. You need to offer fair wages for the work and service we have given.
Okay, he stopped. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.
Next, we have, we have 9 hands currently up for public comment. Next, we have R. Hernand. Should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now. R. Hernand, your mic is unmuted. Your 3 minutes have started.
But we can't hear you.
Right. R. Hernand, we're going to come back to you. Next, we have Donald. Let me just reset this. Next, we have Donald Burton. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Good morning, board. My name is Donald Burton. I've been with the district a little over 1.5 years. I'm a wastewater plant operator at SD1 and current local 444 member. I commute into SD1 over the Carquinez Bridge, and with this commute, I faced a large increase in costs over this past year. Gas is up over 50% on average. In addition, bridge tolls are scheduled to rise nearly 17% in January, increasing another $1 for passing over all Bay Area bridges with the exception of the Golden Gate. That brings my personal annual total cost just in bridge toll alone to over $1,600 for next year. Our budgets are also being stressed by inflation-driven increases to necessities. Some examples being ground beef up on an average of 18%, eggs up 29%, milk up 8.4% on average compared to this time last year. As 444 members, we're a blue-collar workforce, and pandemic or not, we come into work every day. There is no remote option for us. 444 members are the backbone of this district. Just last month, we faced a historic storm showing roughly 10 times our normal flows on our wastewater system. We dealt with flooding equipment rooms, equipment failing under heavy, stressful loads, and general fatigue and unsafe conditions. I personally worked nearly 40 hours in a 3-day period during that storm. During that, I witnessed the dedication of 444 members had. Dedication to their team, dedication to the district, dedication to the ratepayers and the community at large, dedication to protecting the San Francisco Bay ecosystem. We do truly extraordinary work in truly extraordinary times in the face of challenges that we're seeing with the evidence of climate change and the pandemic itself. And I ask that the board please consider a fair wage package for Local 444. Thank you.
Thank you, Donald.
Next, we have R. Hernand. Should be able to unmute your mic. I think we're having technical difficulties. Okay. Let's see. come back. Next, we have Evan Klein Corman. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Good morning, members of the Board of Directors and GM Chan. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, my name is Evan Klein Corman. I am a wastewater plant operator 1 and have been with the district for 3.5 years and am an officer of Local 444. At the onset of this pandemic, we continued to show up for work long before we understood how COVID-19 was transmitted and remained in direct contact with raw sewage as part of our job duties. I lost nights upon nights of sleep and my mind spun with fear. I was proud to be a part of keeping our critical infrastructure running, and still am, but we did not have the safety and luxury of home offices to keep SD1 running. It's not an option. We have a great team in wastewater, and like our previous speaker, I'm impressed with the collective work we have done throughout this pandemic deeply. However, I've been deeply disappointed with our dealings with management in our COVID-19 meet and confer venue and how our contract negotiations have seemed to follow a similar pattern. I have sat as recording secretary on the Reconstitution Committee for almost 2 years. We fought hard to maintain safe working conditions and protect our workforce, to assure that they could come safely to work and go home safely to their families. Throughout that period, we did not feel listened to, respected, or bargained with in good faith. And although I am not sitting in the Contract Negotiations Committee, it seems that the same pattern is playing out there. Between being granted mere hours per week at the table and scant movement on wage raises, it seems to us that the district continues to bargain in bad faith. Again, no members of Local 444 can work from home, and the lion's share of us commute from far away: Vacaville, Tracy, Concord, Livermore, even one member from Lodi. These are the only places left where it's a modicum affordable to provide life for a family. Aside from the hours of life that can't be gained back from sitting in endless traffic every day, this costs hundreds of dollars per month, more than ever now with gas prices blistering up to the $5 per gallon mark. My grocery bill is up 150%. The CPI is up 6.2%, and even Social Security has acknowledged this in a 5.9% COLA for this year. So to see the proposed COLA ceiling for us at half that amount is a slap to the face. It feels like disregard for our hard work through the pandemic and the risk we put ourselves at just to keep water in the taps and sewage out of the bay. It feels like disregard for the astronomical cost just to live here in this area. And to me, it's untenable. I'm an essential worker. I show up every day to work to support my family. We deserve a wage that matches our skilled work and will allow us to live, survive, and support our families in this expensive area and time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Evan.
Next, we have Andrew Sakara. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Andrew Sequeira. I've been in the district for 3 years and 10 months. I'm currently utility labor, member of 444. I'm an essential worker. I show up every day to work. We deserve a wage that matches our skilled work, allows us to live, survive, and support our families in life. It's expensive area and time. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, next we have Robbie Pence. 3 minutes start now.
Hello, my name is Robbie Pence. I've been at the district 3 years, and I'm a water distribution plumber 2. I'm here with several water distribution plumbers from North area, speaking on their behalf. Can't hear me?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear us?
Okay, I'm a member of Local 444. I'm here with several water distribution plumbers from North area, speaking on our behalf. I'm an essential worker. I showed up every day to work to support my family. We deserve a wage that matches our skilled work and will allow us to live, survive, and support our families in this expensive area and time. Thank you.
Thank you, Robbie, and thank you for the other workers you're with.
Next we have Johnny Maderos. Should be able to unmute your mic.
Hi, good morning, everybody. This is Johnny Maderos. I'm a plumber out of a pipeline. I've been here for 4 years. I work every bit of overtime that I can. I take call every time that I'm offered, I go out in the middle of the night, and I get sprayed in the face in the cold, and I hurt my back, all only because it is hard to get by in the Bay Area. I have another kid on the way, and I don't know how I'm going to pay for daycare with all that. All that I'm asking is for a wage where I can be comfortable, where I can get by, and I don't have to work every bit of overtime only to get by. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny.
Next, we have Tim Suhu. Should be able to unmute your mic. Tim, and your
Yes,
3 minutes start now.
Okay, thanks. Hello, board members and Director Chan. My history is I've been here almost 6 years. I left a great job to come to East Bay Mud because I knew East Bay Mud was the place to be. It had full of quality people, innovative work, and dedication. I started off here at the bottom as a janitor, worked my way up, and knowing that if needed, all hands needed on deck, I would be there. So during this pandemic, this is all hands on deck, and Local 444, which I'm a proud member of, stepped up and took the chances and risks and exposure. So in light of that, I expect the board to consider coming to the table and stepping up as well. So we've been here for you. You need to be here for us. I'm not as prepared with numbers and facts and statistics like all the previous speakers, but from my heart, I'm giving everything I've got here to the district because I wanted to. And it would be really special and great if the board could consider our efforts. Thanks so much. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Tim. We appreciate taking your time.
Next, we have Kevin Amdahl. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Okay, good morning. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Kevin Amdahl. I've worked for the district for 5 years as a maintenance machinist, and I'm a proud member of Local 444. I am an essential worker. I show up every day to work to support my family. Many of us have endured hardships throughout the pandemic, and yet we performed our work duties and kept water flowing to the East Bay. The majority of 444 members working at the district cannot afford to live in the service area. Average home prices in the Bay Area now top $1 million. As a result, many workers are forced to live further from the district's service area. Driving further to get to work means they're disproportionately impacted by the soaring gasoline prices. As essential workers who provide a critical service to hundreds of thousands of East Bay residents, we deserve a wage that matches our skilled work and will allow us to live and support our families in this high cost of living area. The district, now more than ever, needs to step up and recognize the efforts and sacrifices that its employees have made throughout this historic pandemic, and not merely just pay it lip service. Please consider 444's proposals and approve wage increases for our members. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kevin.
Next, we have Charles Andelin. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Good morning. My name is Charles Andelin, 444 member. I've been here for 5.5 years. I'd like to ask the board member to please consider our wage increase, as for most of 444 members have to travel more than 45 minutes just to get to their work locations. Personally, I have to travel an hour. And, you know, I am committed to this job to provide for my family. And also, I'm committed to this job to provide the ratepayer as a team, provide the ratepayer clean drinking water and also wastewater services. We give it our all, and it's really hard for us to get by right now with all these increases in inflation. And I just ask the board to please consider allowing our wage increase. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. And thank you to all the work you've done and all the other workers who've been coming before us talking about. We really do appreciate your work.
Next, we have Demetrius. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Good morning, board and everybody. This is Demetrius Broussard, employee 15395. And I've been here at the district 20 years. So I've seen a lot, and I really like working at the district, and will continue to do so. I would like the board also to keep in consideration of the inflation that has been going up. I normally don't pay attention to that until it was brought to my attention to me from my wife. When she asked for more money, and I asked her what it was for, and food. Said, okay, well, now I have to get a second, offset certain things. I even had to put my Cadillac away because gas is up. Now she's riding in it because she only goes short distance here to here. I got to go to work every day. So I'm doing my part to offset what the cost that's coming upon me. And also, as far as us being there from the beginning of the pandemic, I must say, comfortable when they had to go somewhere to use the restroom. I'm talking about the plumbers out there. That's all your work you guys do. And even to the point of where you guys are sitting, we have discipline from the beginning of this pandemic and still going on and on. I just want to be appreciative for the hard work me and the rest of my coworkers have been endured upon and called upon, and we've been there. And I hope you guys consider all of that and everything else that my former 444 colleagues have been speaking on, which I agree with wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Thank you, Demetrius. Appreciate your testimony.
Next, we have Jonathan Kruger. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. My name is Jonathan Kruger. I've been with the district for 8 years. I work in the central warehouse. Like all the other 444 members, we don't have the luxury of telecommuting and working from home. Here at the warehouse, we've provided the district with all the supplies and tools that it needs to navigate through the pandemic, from face masks and sanitizing supplies. It's been a big challenge. Everybody in 444 is in agreement that costs have gone way up, food, you name it, fuel. All we ask is that we get a fair contract and a fair equity agreement so that we can continue to live as close as possible to the district that we serve so loyally. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Next, we have David Kelly. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Hi, good morning, board, GM. My name is David Kelly. I'm a plumber 3. I've been here for 8 years, and I am a member of Local 444. I am an essential worker. I show up every day to work to support my family. We deserve a wage that matches our skilled work and will allow us to live, survive, and support our families in this expensive area and time. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, David.
Next, we have Kelly A. Should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
We've just heard a parade of workers for EBMUD present their comments and concerns as public comments. And what I'd like to point to is how the board has been treating them. These people, many of them, have gone out of their way to explain to you that they don't actually live in the EBMUD district, that they live far away. And this board has not asked them repeatedly, as they have me, where do you live? Where do you reside? This questioning of where do people reside that this board has been asking many times, 4 separate occasions, by the way, your board has asked me this question, is disingenuous after the 3rd or 4th time. And it would violate the Brown Act for you to be asking your workers this. The workers can live wherever they want. If your workforce and the people who call in to provide public comments, they can live wherever they want also. This emphasis on where do these people live is actually contrary to the spirit and the writings of the Brown Act. I'd suggest that some of your directors need to get training on the Brown Act so that you can treat all of your public commenters and your employees with respect and dignity, regardless of where they live. That's their business, where they live. And their concerns can be presented. They can live anywhere they want, and they can present their concerns regardless of where they live. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly.
Next, we have Joey Smith. Joey, you should be able to unmute your mic.
Thank you very much, Risha. Are you able to hear me?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. My name is Joey Smith. I am the president of Local 2019 here at East Bay MUD. I have been a ratepayer for East Bay MUD even before I started working here. And I've got to say, I was very, very thrilled and proud that East Bay MUD had the great honor of being present for the signing of the U.S. Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act of 2021 on November 15th, 2021. In the press release, there's a quote from Vice President Harris calling East Bay MUD a model agency for safe drinking water access and the creation of good-paying union jobs that keep economies strong. Yes, we do. But do we really pay well enough to keep everyone here able to live close enough to get here in case of an emergency? The first time I bought a house, not by myself, it was outside of our service area. And the folks over there were desperately trying to get me to join their water company. But I'm like, no, I'm here, I'm with East Bay MUD, and I'm vested. Now I am back within East Bay MUD service area. And again, a ratepayer. Also in this press release was a quote from President Lenny, "Let's get to work." And it goes on with more. Well, we have been at work. All of us have been at work, and it's time for the district to live up to not only our local, but our international our reputation, because I've talked with people from outside the country who know about us. But when we cannot afford to live here and be ratepayers where we work, that's a problem. And I'm fortunate to be able to do this, but the timing was right for me. Please give our negotiators the leeway that they need to be able to meet us with our wage proposals, with our equity proposals. We understand that the way that the budget is put together does not have our staff in mind. We're an afterthought. And I think we need to do something about that going forward. But without the staff, without the people, the boots on the ground. I mean, I was a plumber out there. I've also been a supervisor here, and I needed to keep my sanity. So I took a demotion. But we're losing people here because of the stress that's going on in their jobs. They're not feeling properly supported, and many people are looking in other places. So we've got to make it worth it to keep our employees here, to help with the morale, because most of us are extremely loyal and we want to be here. Most of us enjoy the people that we work with, but it's something about the bureaucracy of how this company is running that is causing the dissension and people having to choose their own self-preservation.
Joey, your 3 minutes have concluded. If you can wrap up your comments.
Before getting eaten up and spit out. But we who are here, we need to make sure that we can finish our negotiations in a reasonable manner instead of people figuring out where else they need to go in order to be able to afford to take care of their families. Thank you for your time, President Lenny, Board, and General Manager Chan.
Thank you, Joey.
Next, we have Nick Baranzini. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Morning, Board, General Manager Chan. My name is Baranzini, Water Distribution Plumber 3. I've been at the district for 8 years. I'm a member of Local 444, and I'm on the board of Local 444. During this whole pandemic, you're supporting the district. We've supported the district not only during this, but we've especially supported during the pandemic. We need a wage package that supports the workers the way we have supported the district.
Thank you, Nick.
Next, we have Miguel Lugo. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Good morning, Board. Good morning, Mr. Chan. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
My name is Miguel Lugo. I am a heavy transport operator here at East Bay Mud. Been here 6 years in March coming here. I am an essential worker, as well as all of my brothers and sisters in Local 444, which I am a proud member of and a member on the E-Board. We show up to work every day, whether it be rainy, very cold, or exceptionally hot, and we do our job safely and effectively during and still through this pandemic, ensuring that East Bay Mud provides safe, clean drinking water to our customers, treat the wastewater effectively and efficiently. All our janitors who come clean day in and day out through the pandemic, or maintenance machinists, maintenance mechanics, fleet mechanics, wastewater operators, grounds crew, plumbers, truck drivers, everyone here in Local 444 provide a specific element to ensure that East Bay Mud maintains a level of exceptional standards that separate us from the rest. We deserve a fair and reasonable contract. I urge you that you force East Bay Mud to the bargaining table with a fair and just contract. Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel.
Okay. And next we have John Kellett. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Hello, good morning all. My name is John Kellett. I'm a grounds maintenance specialist 2 here at East Bay Mud. I've been here for approximately 2 years. I wanted to come today to speak about what everyone else is speaking about, the wage contract negotiation. The angle I wanted to take from it is that, you know, East Bay Mud, we deliver water and wastewater services based on factual data, truthful information. What's the volume of water you can put through an 8-inch PVC pipe? How many acre feet of water do we need to store, et cetera, et cetera? Well, some other factual data that is out there is the consumer price index. And as many people have spoken on, inflation is going up and the consumer price index has reached somewhere around 5.2 to 6.2%. All we're asking for is that you do what's right and you give us a raise based on the consumer price index, based on the factual data, on the truthful information that is out there about how much more we have to pay to live, to feed our families, to pay for gas, and all that type of stuff. When I came here to East Bay MUD, I was taught the core values that we're supposed to abide by: stewardship, integrity, respect. Stewardship means taking care of something, such as an organization or a property. I maintain properties, I take care of those properties. I ask that you also represent those core values by taking care of us and doing what's right. I often think about, I'm raising a teenage daughter now, and I try to teach her to treat people how she wants to be treated. And so I implore you, please treat us how you would like to be treated also. You know, we just want what's fair. We want what's right. And that's basing our contract off of the CPI, off the money that we spend every day at the grocery store, at the gas pump, etc. I thank you for your time. Goodbye.
Thank you, John, and thank you. It looks like those are all the speakers. I just want to thank everyone for coming today and talking to us and sharing your story and how you feel about this. I appreciate it a lot.
We have one more hand.
All right.
Gary 2, you should be able to unmute your mic. Your time starts now.
Thank you, Risha. Hello, President Lenny, Board of Directors, General Manager Chan, and the rest of the attendees in this meeting. I just wanted to piggyback on the last thing I heard. My name's Gary Walters II. I'm an East Bay MUD lifer, part of the local 2019 contract negotiating team, et cetera, et cetera. All this talk about CPI, I just wanted to clarify that CPI is one factor, but we use CPIW to base our wage increases on. Sorry, I wasn't prepared to speak. We also keep a plus component traditionally in most years. And my mindset, is since CPIW does not take into account the adjustments for gasoline or housing, the plus component has been there to pick up the difference from our area, which happens to be one of the hottest economies in the nation. So when you hear the CPI number, it's different than the CPIW that we use. And again, the home prices, they went up in the last 10 years from an average median home of 500,000 to 1.3 million. Fuel is up 50%, I heard, or in some, depending on when you base the time on. So just a wage increase based on CPI does not truly account for the increases in the cost of living here in the Bay Area. Thank you for your time, and I wish you all a great holiday. I'm actually on vacation.
All right. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for taking time from your vacation and informing us.
Okay. We have
do we have any other speakers?
We have no other speakers for public comment.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will now convene to discuss close.
Hands are popping up, but go ahead, President Lenny. There are no other hands for public comment.
Okay. We will go ahead. We were going to convene now to discuss closed session. Agenda items were scheduled to return for our regular meeting at 1:15. I'm wondering, this ran over for good reasons here. I'm wondering if we should give a warning now for a later return.
I think 1:45 will probably be safe, President Lenny.
Okay. All right. So I will say that we'll reconvene here at 1:45 p.m. for our regular meeting. Thank you, everyone.
All right, welcome everyone to our Tuesday, November 23rd, 2021 regular business meeting of the East Bay MUD Board of Directors. In accordance with Government Code Section 54953E, this meeting will be conducted by webinar and teleconference only. Physical location will not be provided for this meeting. The Redistricting Ad Hoc and Finance Administration Committees met this morning and will report out under item 16. All directors, including myself, are participating remotely. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman.
Present.
Director Katz,
Present.
Director McIntosh,
Here.
Director Mellon,
Present.
Director Patterson, Director Young,
I'm here.
President Lenny.
I'm here.
And-
Please join me now for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
nation, under God,
liberty and
indivisible,
justice for all.
with liberty and justice for all.
There are no announcements required from closed session. We're now at the public comment period. If members of the public wish to speak to either an agenda or a non-agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. For comments on non-agenda items, we'll hear those now, and items for comments on agenda items will be heard when that item is up for consideration. When prompted, please state your name, affiliation if applicable, and topic. Please refrain from providing personal information such as addresses or phone numbers during public comment. If we need that information, we'll have you contact staff. Secretary will call each speaker in the order received. Each speaker is allotted 3 minutes to speak. However, I have this discretion to amend this time based on the number of speakers. The secretary will track time and inform each speaker when their allotted time has concluded.
We do have
Go ahead.
speakers on the line for public comment. We have 4, and I'm going to start with the phone number ending in, it's a 408 area code, phone number ending in 1989. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now. We can't hear anything if you're speaking. I'm going to go ahead.
Excuse me, I just unmuted myself.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Kelly Abreu. The Board of Directors Subcommittee offered up absurd interpretations of the notion of geographical contiguity this morning at a hearing on redistricting. Redistricting is an important thing where you divide up the districts for even populations. And in the case of this district, you're trying to hit fantastically accurate, absurdly accurate percentage deviations. Those aren't really required. You know, you could have 5% deviations, and a lot of people would consider that to be perfectly legal, but whatever. Regardless, the entire board or the entire subcommittee passed a recommendation that involves a ward map that bifurcates San Ramon. San Ramon is split up, and a chunk of it gets thrown in with Castro Valley. There was no explanation, you know, on the slides of why that is, why that should be, how that could be. And one explanation, various explanations were thrown out there, you know, verbally. One was that the map is wrong, that the map has blank areas on the ridge tops where nobody lives up there, and the EBMUD doesn't serve the ridge tops. And those ridge tops serve, you know what they do? They actually divide up the watersheds of East Bay Mud. They're a natural dividing line, but the board members think that those actually serve to somehow connect. They're a land connection between the different watersheds. And of course, that's a little bit, that's designed to provide a fig leaf of political cover for the gerrymandering of San Ramon, perhaps. And the most inane justification was that that's the way we've been doing it for the last 10 years. You know, we've had somebody representing that little chunk of San Ramon for 10 years, and it's been, and we want to keep doing it that way. Well, what's changed? Why can't you just keep doing what you've always done? Is the Fair Maps Act. And all of this board voted to adopt the Fair Maps Act as a best practice. So I think that perhaps your board needs to reconsider those ward maps, and especially ask yourselves, why are we cutting up San Ramon? Why does a chunk of San Ramon have to be thrown in with Castro Valley? And why can't San Ramon all be together? in one ward? You know, I think those questions are pretty simple, and they're pretty important. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, we didn't get your name, I don't think, for the record.
Kelly Abreu?
I'm sorry?
Kelly Abreu?
All right.
President Lenny, I think the caller said Kelly Abreu.
Oh, okay.
Yes. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Our next speaker is, the name is Cal Bike. You should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Well, thank you. Thank you, President Lenny and board. My name is Rob Williams. I'm the chairperson of the Motherlode Bicycle Coalition and the outreach manager for Cal Bike, the statewide bike advocacy organization located in Oakland. I wanted to introduce myself, talk to you a little bit about the bike report that you should have got a link to called bikevalleytosierra.com. The signature projects in that bike report, one of them being the East Bay Mud River Aqueduct. I want to talk to you about some current grant funding we're doing on one of the other signature projects, and then request some follow-up. So I live in Valley Springs and I ride a bicycle. Went across Pardee Dam today and up to the observation, went past Comanche and then rode home. I've been doing that for about 25 years. I run a bike ride called Ride and Walk for Art in March. I'll have about 300 cyclists take off from Valley Springs and visit Pardee, visit Comanche. And then in April, the annual Pardee Party will have 1,400 cyclists riding around Pardee, Comanche, and Lake Hogan. Those bike riders bring dollars before their bike events and they stay after to ride the roads. And the bike riding tourism report that you should have a link to talks about bike riding popular routes in the 5 counties that we went and did outreach for. The outreach that we did at San Joaquin County, there was a retired public works director who said, why don't you look at the Mokelumne River Aqueduct as a potential bike trail? It would bring people from all over the state to ride from Stockton to Lake Comanche. And I called, and the assistant superintendent of the aqueduct, Doug Hooper, and Charles Beckman, the ranger at the Watershed, said graciously, you know, it's a public trail, you can use it. On the line during that meeting was Cal Bike and our Fears and Peers Transportation Solutions project manager, who were surprised that East Bay Mud would say, use the trail. Nothing's happened on that trail at this point, but I wanted to bring the board's attention to the possibilities. I mean, the Mastodon finding, I can imagine a family getting on their bicycles, riding to Lake Comanche, staying at Lake Comanche, wanting to see the forest, petrified forest, and seeing some exhibit of the Mastodon prehistoric fossils. So I guess I wanted to bring it to your attention that I think it's a real winner for our region. Currently in Tuolumne County, the Sierra Railway gave their 49 miles of rail easement to the county and said, if you want to build a bike trail here, go for it. We're lucky to have a relationship with Caltrans, District 10, Marlon Retchersford. He rails to trails, transportation people in Tuolumne County. We all met and talked about the potential of having a rail trail greenway following from Stanislaus County up into Tuolumne.
Mr. Williams, your 3 minutes have concluded. If you can wrap up your comments.
Yeah, I can. Caltrans offered to write an ATP plan. And I was on the phone today with Marlon, and he said, if East Bay Mud decides to move forward, have them give me a call. We'll work with you to create a trail. So my request, let me know how I can help, or if there's any interest, what are my next steps? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I know.
Received your report, was looking at it with a great deal of interest yesterday.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Next, we have Christian Narvez. You should be able to unmute your mic. 3 minutes will start now. Christian, we can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay. Christian, we're going to come back to you. Next, we have Jane, no last name. Jane, you should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes will start now.
Hi, I'm Jane, Jane Liu, and I wonder if you have all seen the email that I submitted through Risha.
Yes.
So I'm a duplex owner in El Cerrito. The reason I'm being here today is to file a grievance. First of all, I don't feel that EBMUD has a very clear grievance process in place. Okay. And the second reason, the main reason I'm here is because I was told that for this ADU that I just converted in the back of my duplex, where I intended to age in place, I would be charged $16,000 for the water meter. Now, first of all, the process is not at all transparent. And given the COVID and the hardship I'm going through, this may very well be the last straw that's going to break the camel's back. That's why I'm fighting so hard. If I can't, I did some research on my own, and I feel that other water district is able to come up with cheaper solution. And also for PG and E, when they charge me for gas and electric meters, I was only billed $75 per meter. Where it comes to EBMUD, I was told by the new business manager it would cost $16,000. And I tried to file grievance, and he said he's where the buck stops. And then I have to jump through hoops, and then finally got to Andrew Lee, and he was very responsive, and he really listened. I appreciated that, and he came up with a proposal like $97,000, which sounded to me as like sub-metering. And even with the reduction of $6,000, you know, it's still too much for me. So in my email, first of all, I indicated that I do want to be compliant, but I just simply cannot afford it. And I also wonder, is like this formidable amount justifiable? Because when I applied for the permit for ADU at the encouragement of California government or a local government, it was never transparent to me that water company would require me for such a large amount. So, and I wonder if you guys have considered ordinary homeowner who just want, you know, like I'm retired, taking care of a stroke out mom. And how would ordinary homeowner be able to come up with money like that? And especially given COVID, everything's inflated and everything's delayed. And people are living on reduced income. Because if I really can't get a good solution, I may have to take this to California governor or to some senator. I don't know where else to go. And I'm hoping that you can help me. That's why I'm here.
All right, Ms. Liu, thank you for being here today, and also for your very detailed and well written email explaining the issue. Clifford, is there a comment or here that we can discuss?
Yeah, I think we can provide a more detailed summary for the board, but I think the circumstance that we have right here is the laws that I think Ms. Liu is talking about. And what we as a water agency or the law talks about the water corporation or a special district can do, unfortunately in her case only applies for single family homes and not multifamily, which is a duplex that she has right now. But we can provide a more detailed write-up for the board to understand the circumstances and maybe even a summary of what Andrew had tried to work out with her.
Right. Frank?
Oh,
Go ahead, Frank.
Sorry, somebody wanted to talk for a second?
well, if the solution is same as what Andrew have proposed, I can't fly with that because I'm really strapped right now. And I kind of wonder about the cost. How is it justifiable? How come other water districts can do without a water meter? I checked with San Francisco and they could do without a water meter for a newly added ADU. And then with Contra Costa Water District, they would only require people to upsize their meter if need be. All of the costs would be less than what EBMUD is charging. And I understand my case is kind of rare, you know, a duplex rental, you know.
So Ms. Liu, I'm sorry if I interrupt. It just,
Sure.
we're unable to solve your problem here and now. We want to get, you know, pursue any questions that we have to clarification with you. We want to understand what our staff has told you from their perspective, and see if we can, you know, figure out something better than where we're at right now. That's the point of having you come before us.
I do have a question, I think.
Go ahead.
Without getting into argument or discussion. Jane, is this a unit you're going to rent out, or is it a unit that is going to sit as part of a property you own?
Well, I intend to age in place. It's only a 400 square foot.
Okay, you're not answering my question, Jane.
Sorry.
So let's try it once more. Is this a unit that, I understand you want to age in place, but is this a unit you are intending to rent out, or is it a unit that will be part of the overall property?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question. Which unit are you referring to?
The ADU.
ADU? I intend to live in there, not
Okay.
rent out.
So then I think you need to have a further conversation with Mr. Lee to explain that, because it may very well be you don't need a meter. But that's something.
I explained to.
Excuse me,
both-
please.
Sorry.
That is something you'll need to explain and discuss with them in that vein. We can't go, the president of the board is quite clear, we can't get into doing problem solving for you, but there is a difference in the 2 points that I just asked you questions on. And I think that I would urge you to chat with Mr. Lee about that.
Right. And,
So,
I'm hearing,
Andrew-
Frank, that she has explained this, and she was in a fairly detailed email that
Saw it,
to us
yeah.
that had that. So again,
So who owns the solution to this? Is it Andrew who can help me to work this out?
Andrew's going to be the best point of contact with East Bay Mud, but you've brought this to our attention. We're going to look into it and see if there's anything else that we can, you know, direct or help Andrew solve that way.
Because I truly don't believe I would be the isolated case. A lot of people are building ADUs.
Right.
So we'll prepare a write-up for the board and detail her circumstance versus the other circumstances that she's talked about where we don't require meters for ADUs and junior ADUs in compliance with the new laws. So we'll provide an update to the board and then we can have further discussion.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Thank you, Ms. Liu.
one more second, okay? And I also feel that the grievance process can use some improvement. Because I spend so much effort just trying to get to someone.
Yeah, so Clifford, can we please address that as well to make sure that, I mean, because I did hear you loud and clear both today and in your letter that it's been a challenging process and it shouldn't be that challenging. And if there's improvements we can make to how people try to resolve things, we should definitely make an effort in that direction.
Thank you, President Linney.
We'll include that as well.
All right. Thank you. Next speaker.
Next, we have Christian Narvaz. We're going to try this again. Christian, you should be able to unmute your mic. And we still can't hear you. So is your phone on mute? Still can't hear you. Okay. Christian, we're going to come back to you. Next, we have Winnie Jiang. Winnie, you should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes will start now.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello to the board, President Lenny and General Manager Clifford. I'm an assistant engineer at East Bay MUD, and I'd like to voice my concerns with the proposed wage increases. I was really disappointed to see that the average of the max wage cap for the next few years comes out to be, I think, around like 3.19%, especially since the most recent CPIW increases have all been above 4%, and October's is even at 5.2%. And I just wanted to point out that your younger workforce is really struggling to live in the Bay Area. We were put on a less robust PEPRA retirement plan. We weren't offered 401k matching or any options to make up for the less robust plan. And then our living expenses, they're just getting astronomically higher every year. The median cost of a house in Oakland is $950K. And I spent the last few years in a 1,000 square foot house with 3 to 4 roommates in a high crime neighborhood to try to save up money for a down payment. And I am slowly saving up money, but even when I do save up enough, the monthly mortgage is going to be about $45K per month. I don't know how I will be able to pay that, yet save enough for retirement, and also afford to have children. And I think everybody in Local 2019 deserves a raise that matches inflation, but I really hope that you'll especially consider how hard it'll be for your younger workforce and also your workforce who are just restricted to lower salary ranges in the next few decades coming up. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Winnie.
Next, we have Nick Lawrence. You should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Am I being heard?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Just for the record, we started 45 minutes late again today. This makes it difficult for people with a time budget to exercise their Brown Act rights to attend and participate and be heard in open meetings. I'll begin my 3 minutes now. Greetings, East Bay MUD employees, members of the public, and my friends on the board. Welcome to today's episode of A Dangerous Condition of Public Property, still existing in the form of the out-of-service fire hydrant on Tappan Terrace, which continues to put lives and property, ratepayers, and East Bay MUD itself at risk. I'm Nick Lawrence of Orinda, your host for this episode 8 called The Roundup. My email is eastbaymud@nickLawrence.com, and I too have an unaddressed grievance. The sole fire hydrant on my street, hydrant number H14100, remains out of service, connected as it is to a puny 2-inch rubber hose since East Bay MUD's 8-inch water main broke 18 months ago. The fire hydrant, along with its water supply, is East Bay MUD's sole duty and responsibility to maintain. 7 months ago, General Manager Chan's brother, Engineering Manager Carlton Chan, promised me this condition would be rectified promptly with a fire-protected 8-inch water line. But they've not done so during fire season and drought, leaving my home and family and those of my neighbors at great risk. In previous episode 6, Liar, Liar, Pants on Fire, I detailed the misinformation East Bay MUD gave my local fire department, claiming that the fire hydrant, with its vulnerable 2-inch rubber hose, had the same pressure and water flow as it did with the 8-inch steel pipe before that pipe broke 18 months ago. Last episode, The Posse, included a call to action and has brought forward numerous confidential informants willing to share what they know. You're welcome to join the Posse too and share what you know. Do you have the memo? Episode 7 also revealed that over 50 additional East Bay MUD fire hydrants are out of service, maybe the one near your home. While the board talks bad about me behind closed doors, it appears they take notes, because we have since learned that East Bay MUD's very own engineer, David Renstrom, has belatedly confirmed the obvious, namely that the fire hydrant served by the CUNY 2-inch rubber hose, in fact, does not have the same water flow and pressure as one serviced by an 8-inch pipe. This is not rocket science, but it is, of course, exactly why East Bay MUD's Mr. Chan promised an 8-inch water line protected against fire would be installed last April. And we've also learned that East Bay MUD, likely by applying generous overtime, has reduced the number of acknowledged out of service fire hydrants from more than 50 to about 25 in just 2 weeks. But still not including fire hydrant H14100, which remains supplied by the ineffectual tiny 2-inch blue rubber hose. I feel this pattern of conduct by East Bay MUD is retaliation against me, all because my neighbors sued East Bay MUD over its failure to accept responsibility for the damage caused by its broken water main 18 months ago. The board, sitting here before us, including my own director, Ms. Young, has the power to correct this dangerous condition of public property. I say to her and to them, once again, do it now. Tune in again, everyone. Next meeting, December 14th, for episode 9 of A Dangerous Condition of Public Property. And keep those posse tips coming to eastbaymud@nicklawrence.com. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you.
President Linney, I would like to just make one correction about the fire hydrant and the reporting, and what Dave Renstrom had said. So when we heard from MOFD that they reported the information about the fire hydrant being in service, we had provided the correct information to the MOFD, and when we heard about that, we went back to MOFD to tell them that the information they reported was incorrect. And so we did not provide MOFD incorrect information that the fire hydrant could flow. We in fact told them what it could produce was a 2-inch line, and when we heard that they said differently, we had corrected MOFD.
All right, thank you for that clarification. Marguerite, do you have a?
Yeah, I just want to ask, I'm aware of significant progress being made to resolve this longstanding issue. And Clifford, if you could please provide an information memo to other board members to apprise them of same, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Will do. Thank you.
And I'm sorry if I take personally the fact that meetings don't start on time, but I do want to say that we're dealing with a lot of issues in closed session, and as with all items that are on our agenda, we never know when exactly they're going to come up, and this falls in the same category. If you ask me, that you know, we have items that take a long time. We had 45 minutes worth of employees that felt important that they address the board, which I think we're all very happy they did this morning. And that's the way public meetings roll. So, Mr. Lawrence, I just, you're gonna have to get used to it if you want to continue coming to our board. That's the way public meetings are. All right, I think we have another comment.
We do. At the moment, we have 2. Next, we have Sean Constable. You should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Linney, board members, and General Manager Chan. I'm Sean Constable, and I'm a representative of the New Business Office, as well as a proud member of AFSCME 2019. Local 2019's motto is that we make EBMUD happen. And I believe the past 2 years has especially shown 2019's dedication both to the district and its customers. However, past 2 years have also shown especially how susceptible the livelihoods of our membership is to the whims of the economy, inflation, and the cost of living in the Bay Area. I believe 2019 has bargained in good faith, proposed a meaningful and fair wage package, as well as a list of relevant equity adjustment requests. I support 2019's wage and equity proposals, and I ask that the board give management's lead negotiator the authority to further consider and approve those proposals. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Sean.
Next, we have Casey Evans. Casey, you should be able to unmute your mic. Casey, you should be able to unmute your mic. Okay. Casey, we'll come back to you. Next we have.
I'm here, Risha. Can you hear me?
Yes. And your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. I wasn't looking for the button. Okay. Board members, thank you, Risha. General Manager Tan, I wanted to thank you for giving me some time to come up here and talk to you. And, you know, I do want to give a shout out though to Mr. Lawrence as my favorite producer these days. I just want to let you know I will be awaiting your next episode, and I do apologize about the fire hydrant. So I just wanted to say that you guys, I've come up here before, and I want to ask you to give your negotiator more authority. And I understand that in negotiations there's expected to be a little back and forth, but I like to think that we can at least start off at a place of some kind of mutual respect. And the fact that your negotiator, doesn't matter, your negotiator is not been approved to at least meet, I don't know, where we were making wages at a few years ago, maybe starting at the last contract and looking forward. So we're below that, even though you know the cost of living has gone up. I've warned you and I've asked you to pay attention to your workforce. From 4 to 2019 to 39 to 21, you've got some dedication in these halls. Your confidentials, your part-timers, I'm always surprised. So I again am here to warn you to not undervalue your talent and to appreciate your talent. And everybody says thank you in the public, but when it comes to closed doors, there is no thank you. There is no checking in. There is no making sure your people are okay. So I wanted to also come and thank staff, because I know that you don't hear it, and you're definitely not being shown it, and you haven't been shown it in quite some time. So I wanted to let the members, the staff members, the plumbers, the surveyors, the customer service, the field service, the meter readers, I would like to thank all of you for coming to work, for making sure the water keeps flowing, for making sure that you go above and beyond, because I am always shocked and surprised at how the employees here don't believe in 100%. They believe in 110, that seems to be their minimum. But you keep questioning that. You've been brought proposals to maybe look out for some of your pepper people, some of the people who are under the new system. You know, 401k is not matching is not an unheard of concept in business today. But yet at the table, we're told it was the law and it's not our problem. You should make it your problem. Because soon, and I feel sooner than later, you're going to feel what it's like to lose people you can't buy. That's what you have, and that's what you are preparing yourselves to lose by not even coming up to the table at the same place, not even giving the authority to meet at the same place. You've got people who've been waiting on equities through 5 presidents. And the reason it's not moving forward is because there's something there and the milk's been getting for free.
Casey, your 3 minutes have concluded. If you can wrap up your comments.
So I just want to say, once again, please appreciate your staff and release your negotiator to come to the table with a fair wage for everybody involved. Thank you. And Risha, thank you very much for all the work that you do.
Thank you, Casey.
Thanks. Next, we have N. Douglas. You should be able to unmute your mic.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, and your 3 minutes will start now.
Thank you. I am Nicole Douglas. I am an East Bay MUD employee, and I actually move around. I'm in the Customer and Community Services Department. I have 20 years of dedication to this company, and I'm very versed in the jobs that I do, and I do plenty. And as my other coworkers have stated, I would really appreciate if the board would really come to the table and meet at our level for the wage proposal. The fact that it's been stated that you guys are coming in at 3.9, when as of October, it's 5.2, you know, what does that say about, in the end, what does that say about the district? Do you really want valuable employees? As I said, I've done 20 years and I love what I do. And I stand for all the values that the district has, you know, written in stone or whatever you want to say, put on the placard or on the tree. I stand for those values and I bring those values to work. So I would expect, or I would hope, that the company has the same value for me, and making sure that I can, you know, live closer to work in the area where I work at, as opposed to being stressed out, you know, driving in and driving out from all of these different places that are there, and being able to take care of my family on the same level that you all are able to take care of your family. One of the things that Casey very much expressed is, as we move forward, do you really want to put yourselves in the position that you lose what you have here? Me leaving and walking away, some people may look at it as, oh, well, she just doesn't have a job, but you lose 20 years of experience, 20 years of someone who's been in a department in at least 5, 6, 7 capacities. And I'm talking about experience and knowledge. And that's a lot. It would take people a little bit more than 20 years to come up with the knowledge that I have and that I do bring forth in my job. And so I would, you know, ask that when you are talking to your negotiator and you're looking at us overall, that you think about, you know, with this district and who does work here, what you all really lose when we start to look at employment in other places, in other states and things like that, or just due to the fact that you guys are not willing to meet us at the table. You're asking us to meet you under the table. And that's just, you know, not fair. And I just really would hope that, as Casey said, give your negotiator some leverage to meet us at the table. Actually, I would prefer that you meet us on top of the table. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Next, we have Jennifer Roth. Jennifer, you should be able to unmute your mic. 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, Board President Lenny, board members, and General Manager Chan. I'm an East Bay Med employee, and I love working at the district, and I'm also here to speak about the ongoing contract negotiations. I do support 2019's wage proposal. In the face of ever-growing inflation, our salaries need to keep up with the cost of living in California at the very least. And I asked the board to give management's lead negotiator more authority so that our wage and equity proposals can be accepted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Next, we have Geneva Gondak. One moment. You should be able to unmute your mic, and your 3 minutes start now.
Thank you. Hello, Board President Liddy, General Manager Chan, and board members. My name is Geneva Gondak. I'm also an EBMUD employee and a member of Local 2019. And I'm also here to speak about the ongoing contract negotiations and to voice my support of Local 2019's wage and equity proposals. I really believe that all East Bay Mud employees are incredibly hardworking and deserve meaningful raises. As everyone's been saying, inflation is very high, and the current management wage proposals fall short of keeping up with the cost of living in the Bay Area. I'm a newer, younger employee who's just starting out at the district, and I'm definitely incredibly worried about my ability to afford to live in the Bay Area in the longer term. I really appreciate the district and my job and feel dedicated to working in the public sector, but I'm definitely worried that I won't be able to do so in the longer term, especially if our wages don't keep up with inflation. I asked the board to give the management's lead negotiator authority so that, you know, our Local 2019 wage and equity proposals can be discussed and ultimately accepted. Thank you all so much for your time and listening to this.
Geneva, thank you for coming today, and thank you to all our employees who take the time to give us their input on these negotiations. Are there any other speakers?
We have no other speakers.
Great. Again, thank you everyone for taking the time to be here today. Comment period for this non-agenda items is now closed. We'll move now to the consent calendar, items 1 through 11. Are there any items to be pulled from the consent calendar?
I'll move 1 to 11.
All right, motion by Director Coleman.
I'll second.
Seconded by Director Mellon. Let's take a roll call on the consent calendar.
Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh,
Yes.
Director Mellon,
Yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Lenny.
Yes. All right, we'll now move to determination and discussion. Clifford, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, President Lenny. So first is a resolution to continue our virtual board meetings. The board's required to reaffirm those findings every 30 days. I do want to let the board know that notwithstanding a winter surge in COVID cases, we are planning to bring employees back into the office starting in mid-January. So we'll still have most of our safety protocols in place, but that also might be a good time for the board to resume in-person meetings. So with that, I'll let Derek talk about the resolution.
Yeah, so as the board knows, the Brown Act was recently amended to allow for telecommuting and virtual meetings, provided that the board makes findings not later than every 30 days during a state of emergency. And so these findings have been presented to you in the BD1 and the draft resolution, that the state of emergency directly continues to impact the ability of the members to meet safely in person, and that state or local officials continue to impose or recommend measures to promote social distancing. So that's all I have on that. And
I would so move. Second.
All right, any other questions, discussion?
If I might.
Go ahead.
It seems to me that what we ask of employees, we should likewise ask for ourselves. So that's why I'll be voting for this. And it seems to be only logical that if we ask employees to come in, we should be starting to come in as well. That's all I had.
And that's an appropriate principle, Director Mellon, but I think one important difference that can be applied comparably in employment settings for our employees' offices and where we are working is that we have members from the public coming in and we're not able to distinguish between vaccinated and unvaccinated. So certainly, we should be paying attention to those safety considerations.
All right, Andy, fine.
I'm very much in favor of returning to our in-person meetings as soon as we can.
Yep.
Safely do so, and notwithstanding the flexibility that working remotely has allowed. But I do differ with you, Director Katz, that we have plenty of East Bay MUD employees who interact with the public in a random way every day out in the field, inside or outside. And I just, that to me, I don't make the distinction between, the limited amount of public contact we actually end up having and the almost complete dearth of it that we've had over the last almost 2 years now. Anyway, I'm all in favor of getting back.
Thank you, Marguerite.
Any other comments? I would say the same. I look forward to an opportunity to coming back soon. I'll have to say, the number of speakers that we've had that have our employees who have told, the stories of their lives and how the current contract or the contract to be is affecting them. It's very hard to do that with just a voice. I really miss being able to see them, thank them in person for the work that they do and for coming before us. So I hope this will change soon. So let's have a roll call vote on this.
Okay, Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh,
Yes.
Director Mellon,
Yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Lenny.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Next is the discussion on the Mokelumne Watershed routine maintenance agreement. We did discuss this at the November 9th Planning Committee meeting, where we provided an update, and the committee unanimously accepted the report. Before you today are recommendations to adopt the final mitigated negative declaration, make findings in accordance with CEQA, adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan, and approve the project. And Michelle Workman, Manager of Fisheries and Wildlife, is here to make the presentation.
Good afternoon, board members, President Lenny, and General Manager Chan. Thank you for this opportunity. I just have a few slides to update the board members that were not part of the planning committee, so that all the information is in front of all of the board members. So today I'm going to present some information on the final mitigated negative declaration that we need to support our application for a routine maintenance agreement with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife for the Mokelumne Watershed. Next slide. And so the presentation will cover the purpose of the mitigated negative declaration, the process of public outreach and response to comments, and then staff recommendations and next steps. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the M&D is to cover our routine maintenance activities that occur in what are termed California Department of Fish and Wildlife 1602 jurisdictional areas, and that includes rivers, streams, ponds, waterways, and man-made channels. Our Mokelumne watershed consists of about 28,000 acres of district property that surrounds Pardee and Comanche reservoirs, and it's located in 3 counties, Amador County, Calaveras County, and San Joaquin County, so we need coverage for all of those. Next slide, please. The specific activities we're looking for coverage for include sediment and debris removal, vegetation management, facilities maintenance, erosion prevention, control, repair, and protection, and also environmental stewardship activities like habitat restoration. And for this particular M&D, we broadened the scope to outside of the 1602 coverage area so that we can use this CEQA document to also apply for a safe harbor agreement with California Department of Fish and Wildlife in the future. And that will provide us coverage for any impacts to listed species that occur on the watershed. Next slide, please. And so for our public outreach process, prior to the public comment period, we consulted with local tribal interests. We also consulted with California Department of Fish and Wildlife Region 2, who will be the signatory on the permit we're trying to get. We in total notified 27 agencies and tribes. We posted as required on EBMUD.com to the state clearinghouse, and we filed the notice of intent to adopt with all of the county clerks for the involved counties and published in local papers the availability. Through all of that public outreach, we did receive 2 comment letters. Next slide. We did discuss with the tribes their request for monitoring during ground disturbance activities, and we're able to incorporate that language into our mitigation measure for cultural resources. The letter from, one of the letters was from the Regional Water Quality Control Board, which was basically a notification from them of the regulatory requirements of the work we would do. So no comments were needed to be addressed. And then the comment letter from California Department of Fish and Wildlife included some comments on grazing effects on foothill yellow-legged frog, beaver dam removal, and burrowing owl survey protocols. All of those comments were addressed through clarification, and no major substantial changes to the M&D were required, so nothing triggered a recirculation. Next slide. So before you today, you have the resolution the findings, the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting plan for consideration. And staff is requesting that the board take 4 actions. 1, to adopt the final M&D for the project. 2, make the findings in accordance with CEQA. 3, adopt the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting plan. And lastly, approve the project through resolution. So with that, I thank you all for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And I just want to add that the planning committee heard this item last month and gave it a unanimous recommendation, and really appreciate the work done by Michelle and team to do this.
John?
Yeah, it's a good report. Thank you. I would hope that we can maybe have a brief presentation at the next summer meeting on January 28th about this, since all our partners up there are within the watershed. And I think it'd be important for them to know exactly what we're doing. Yes, they were given notification, but they didn't provide any questions or comments. But I think a brief presentation would be a good thing to do with the UMRA meeting on January 28th.
We can do that.
All right, any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion?
I would move the item with findings.
I will second.
Moved by Director Patterson, seconded by Director Young. Let's have a roll call vote, please. And this is, all these items are taken at once. There's 4 different items, 13A, B, C, and D, but they're all part of the same resolution. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, Director
Roll call
Coleman,
vote.
Yes.
Director Katz,
Yes.
Director McIntosh,
Yes.
Director Mellon,
Yes.
Director Patterson,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
President Lenny.
Yes. All right, carries unanimously.
Thank you, Michelle. Next, we have Derry Moten here, who will present the framework for the DEI strategic plan. We will bring the final report to the board in December, and then back in January for board consideration. And with that, Derry, take it away.
We'd like to provide you an update on where we are with our current development of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Strategic Plan. Thank you. A little taller than the screen here. So to begin with, we'll go to the next slide. We have today going to cover an outline of information. We're going to give you some summary of our actions to date, give you a little preview of the items that are included in the strategic plan. We'll talk a little bit about the change management process that we'll be looking at and some factors that we need to be considering as we're implementing diversity, equity, inclusion here at the district. And then finally, we'll cover some next steps. And then we'd like to have any questions or feedback that you have regarding the plan or any of the items that we covered today. So to begin with, we have a couple of areas that work has been consistently moving forward with in our plan. And we'll begin with racial equity and justice update. And we'll go to the next slide. So in this case, we've done a couple of different items. There have been quite a few things done around our racial equity and justice project. One of the items is we've continued to increase communication with our law enforcement community regarding police reform and how that applies to district operations here. We've held listening sessions with our affinity groups to increase employee engagement and also to create a forum for each of the groups to have more discussion about their own experiences and ideas here at the district. Each of our affinity groups have continued to have continued discussions, and we look forward to continuing to build that and continue to expand our affinity group work as well. We formed a response team to address potential harassment by customers, vendors, and contractors. We initially started with this about how we respond to harassment from customers to our staff when they're out in the field. That has since then continued to expand into us looking further at building really clear protocols on how we actually want to respond also when employees are dealing with challenges directly from contractors or vendors. We've had processes in place, but it's time for us to refine those and make sure that there's clarity for all of our staff regarding how we respond to those items. We've also been working on the development of an equity tool for ongoing review of district policies and procedures. We've been working with our auditing group here to look at our existing process for approving policies and procedures, and we'll be adding an Office of Diversity, Equity, and Culture review of those policies and procedures as we go forward. The main objective here is to make sure that we're applying an equity lens to all of our policies and procedures as we go forward. The Winters Group, when they did their review and cultural audit for us, was able to look at several HR-related policies. However, we want to continue to go through all of our policies on our update cycle here to ensure that we're evaluating them for equity issues as we go forward. Next is our human resources updates. Our human resources department has been working on things for the last several years, and this is kind of a recap on things that they have been doing, kind of independent from our work, but also in continuous improvement for human resources here at the district. One is an implementation of a blind application review process for all applicant screening. So when individuals are applying for positions here at the district, when our hiring panels look at the applications, that is a blind review process. Names are not identified, nor other identifiable information, so that there's a limitation of any potential bias in the application review process. Our HR department also has been providing guidelines to our hiring managers to include diverse hiring panels for every position. So whenever there is a position that is open, the hiring managers will identify a diverse panel to ensure that once again, that we're mitigating any types of bias that happens in the interview process. There's been an update on human resources procedures based on the recommendations that we received from the Winters Group. So as each of the human resources policies and procedures are coming due, they are being updated based on Winters recommendations. And finally, we've been establishing kind of an ongoing dialogue with our internal staff about anticipated recruitments and tactics to try to diversify our applicant pools. And specifically, this has been with our recruitment group and our diversity and inclusion office with our HR analyst that's focused on workforce development. One of the big outcomes for this has been to create a list of positions that we are anticipating coming open within the next 6 months, so we can be more proactive in our outreach to community partners and other groups that may be able to assist us in diversifying our applicant pools as we're moving forward. On our next slide, we are then covering our actions that are happening in terms of our workforce development and community college partnerships. We've expanded our post-secondary internships within our engineering group. We've had more opportunities to provide internships for rangers, computer science, and electrical technicians. So in this particular case, we've been working with the Peralta Foundation to be able to identify potential applicants from the Peralta Community College District for each of those internships. We've also been working with we're working with Los Medanos College to work with them on their electrical technician program to identify potential applicants for our internal internship as well. We've continued to work with the Peralta Community College District as well on the cohort program. We've been providing educational support for employees with an on-site program. Currently, we're beginning to do our planning for our third cycle of that. So far, 67% of the graduates have been women and people of color, and we've had 21 of the people involved in the program promote since their participation in the program. So we're really excited about continuing this program and identifying more opportunities for employees to be cultivated and developed for potential promotions here at the district. And finally, our district diversity and community and diversity committees and affinity groups have continued to expand. So we expanded our diversity committee to represent individuals from each of our affinity groups. Also, we've included our values advocates, our art and sustainability committees, and Toastmasters to round out not only diversity of culture, but also to have opportunities for people with diverse ideas and thoughts to be able to come together as part of the diversity committee. So we're excited about that group continuing to grow and us continuing to have more opportunity to cultivate leadership within those diversity committees. We also want to continue to expand our diversity work through the application of new affinity groups. One of the items that the Winters Group did identify was the fact that we have a strength with both the history and the operation of our affinity groups. So one of the new groups that is being formed by a group of employees here is our Disability Advocacy and Rights Team, which is going to be referred to as DART. They are in the formation process right now, and they've had a first interest meeting with employees, and will continue to work on development with them. We're also in the process of getting more interest and support specifically for a women's affinity group. Okay, next slide. So as we've been doing work, we've also been in the planning process for our DEI strategic plan. And so a couple of items we wanted to introduce you to and open ourselves up for feedback from you on is, number one, our overall vision for DEI is to cultivate diversity, advance equity, and work inclusively. And these three items, we want to make sure that we are continuing to educate the district here about the distinctions between diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our overall mission is that we are going to work toward making sure that we're reflecting the diversity of the communities that we serve. We want all employees, contractors, and customers to be valued, to be included, have a voice in our long-term success, and that any person's identity never determines their outcomes or successes. We're building this on 5 strategic pillars. Number 1 is leadership commitment. Number 2 is workforce diversity. Number 3, inclusive culture. 4 is supplier diversity. And then finally, we'll be working on environmental justice and social responsibility as another element of our strategic plan.
There, Director Melton has his hand raised.
Yes, Director Melton.
Gary, there's the high school intern program that I think got into some, I'll just say pitfalls when the COVID thing broke loose. One of them was a referral program from De La Salle. And I'm talking about something that you said a few slides back, but will this intern program be rekindled? And what about that program that started to get going with De La Salle that wound up going totally into the wind because of COVID?
Yes, we have continued to do the high school intern program. One of the things we've done is we converted it virtually. With the transition to the virtual program, what we had the high school students do is work directly with some of our departments, provided them with some at-home projects that they've been able to work on, and given them a series of enrichment experiences as well during the course of the time. What we will do, however, is also look at the De La Salle program and any other programs that pulled out because we weren't able to offer the physical intern programs as well. But we did try to work with our community partners to make sure that we still had a virtual program to offer, which we've done for the last 2 years here. What we are hoping to do is that as we're able to get opportunities to bring people back on site, that we are able to kind of rekindle some of those internships that weren't able to happen because the physical opportunity wasn't here. One of the things we are glad about this year is, even with our opportunity to go virtual, that we did this year have young people from every ward represented in the intern program.
Yeah. Yeah, I wound up getting a really great set of videos from folks in my ward, and I was very appreciative of the fact that even though it was virtual, they appreciated the work that you guys did. And so I want to pass on that compliment to you.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Thank you.
So we want to move to the next step here. As we're rolling out our diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan, our work has also featured working with the Winters Group and their subcontractor, ONG Racial Equity, and doing training for a core team of employees who have been focused on the application of an equity lens to a series of projects. We have 5 pilot projects that we've reported to you previously on how they've been making progress. But in the application of an equity lens, this is kind of the foundation that we're working on with each of those core items within the strategic plan. And as we're doing that, there's basically 3 layers to the equity lens application. And to define equity lens is how we actually apply an orientation or consciousness of looking at how we correct any systems where we identify inequities within. So this is looking at structural practices that we have, policies and procedures, and also looking at behaviors in the organization and what those do in terms of potentially replicating any form of inequity. So there's three questions that we want to really focus on as we're doing this. And number one is looking at who do our systems benefit. So when we look at any of our systems, both internally and externally, are there individuals who inherently benefit from our systems? That leads us to the second question is, are there any people or individuals or communities who are being harmed by our systems? And again, that harm doesn't have to be intentional. Sometimes that can be unintended consequences of our actions. But we want to ask that question is who is being harmed, or is there any type of harm or barriers that are being perpetuated in our work? And then third is how can we recreate our systems and practices to achieve or redistribute power to achieve equity? And specifically equity being that, again, as we mentioned in our vision, that no one's characteristics of diversity become a determinant on their level of service or their success long term. So the question in that case is, once we make changes, and we do work in this area, how do we continue to ensure that these changes are going to be sustainable? So as we're going through our development process, we're kind of having these as our anchor questions as we're moving forward to application of our equity lens to our work. So on the next slide, I want to introduce you to the drill downs into each of our specific strategic pillars. The first on leadership commitment, we have three areas of priority. First is our commitment and accountability. We want to ensure that leadership is demonstrating commitment and accountability for modeling behaviors that are advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion. We want to next look at our organizational processes. And again, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, is developing a process for continuing review of our policies and procedures to identify and advance our overall equity strategy. And number three, looking at our performance management, is the application of consistent, fair, and equitable processes, performance, behavioral, and conduct issues. And again, we have great systems in place, but where our performance management system is one that we do want to take a look at. How can we do continuous improvement to that system overall? Number two on the next slide is addressing workforce diversity. And there are two key areas, looking at our talent acquisition practices. And again, always addressing the issue of how can we attract, recruit, and hire on board a diverse, high-performing, and culturally competent workforce. And that culturally competent workforce is really how we look at applicants in the long term, not only for their ability to be diverse, but their ability to work in diverse environments. Next is our talent development and mobility area. And specifically with this is how do we strengthen our internal promotion processes, and how do we look at creating stronger pathways for sometimes non-traditional promotion. And we look internally at preparing our employees for both lateral transfers and opportunities that we can look at some of our diversity in the organization. How can we assist and leverage opportunities for promotion for all employees? Next slide will give us inclusive culture. There's three key areas here. Number one is the cultivation of an organizational culture of belonging. We have had a high turnover in the last 7 years with retirements. We right now have an average tenure at the district of 11 years. So we've had a significant amount of employee transition. So one of the key areas here is how do we continue to build a culture that takes us into the future? And an element of that culture we want to emphasize is that every employee does feel like they belong, and that they are accepted, and that they have, again, a sense of value about what they bring to the organization, and also that every employee is able to bring their personal best every day. Next is a proactive EEO processes. Again, we have been doing EEO investigations, and a team has been working specifically on continuing to identify when there is an issue that arises. How do we can continue to increase our efficiency in resolving those issues and bringing them to full resolution? But also we want to look at how can we be more proactive in identifying ways to not only resolve those issues, but to look at how can we do repair in those work groups if there's been an offense or something has gone wrong. And finally, internal communications. We want to look working on enhancing our employee and external public communications to build awareness about the district's commitments to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Next up is our supplier diversity, and these two are internal, but they also affect us externally as well. And on supplier diversity, it's really how can we continue to increase the utilization of our small local women and ethnic minority owned businesses, businesses owned by LGBTQIA plus and disabled veteran owned businesses. And then finally, looking at environmental justice and social responsibility, our community engagement process, we're looking at how do we continue to ensure that we fulfill our social responsibility by embodying the district values and commitment to public service. And this gets into kind of a variety of things in terms of how we touch the public, how we do outreach, and how we continue to represent environmental justice in the local area. Director Young.
You're muted. You're
Sorry, sorry about that. I mean, environmental justice is about correcting disproportionate impacts very specifically. It has, and I'm not seeing that in this short description. Social responsibility is kind of more proactive and going forward, but environmental justice is about correcting and avoiding, disproportionate environmental impacts. So in communities, especially in low income and communities of color. So there's feeling like that there's some tweaking needed on that.
Okay, great. So right now we have a series of things that are going on. I mentioned some of the things that we're working on. Right now we have 15 existing initiatives that we're working on. In our plan, we currently are vetting about 106 new initiatives which fit into the 10 goal areas that we just mentioned within the 5 pillars. Some examples of the new initiatives that we're looking at is number one, identification of key DEI metrics for talent acquisition and talent development, culture and contract equity. So we're looking at how we can continue to build a dashboard specifically for that, ongoing tracking of key DEI metrics. On our next slide, examples of workforce diversity initiatives is, again, we're engaging diverse pools of current and retired employees and storytelling to brand East Bay MUD as a destination employer for diversity. I'm also working to identify classifications that have limited employee career paths and evaluate systematic options for expanded career mobility opportunities. Specifically, we have 2 work teams that are working on this workforce diversity. We have a pilot project from that Winters has been working with us on looking at our hiring practices and processes, and secondarily, a group that's looking at our promotion processes as well. On inclusive culture, some of the example items here is looking at our post-EEO follow-up assessment to be implemented after investigations, again with the focus on how do we either provide alternative dispute resolution or other factors to mitigate issues once they arise, and also looking at how can we continue to strengthen groups after there has been an incident. And next is the modification of our human resources system, our HRIS system, to also allow for other options besides binary gender identification. So this is something that will be in the project as we're moving forward with our HRIS replacement project. For supplier diversity, again, we're continuing to work on pathways to share our program success stories. One of the strongest ways to continue to get us into the community further is to learn how to tell the stories of successes that we've had in the past, and how can we continue to identify opportunities for new vendors as we're going forward. And then again, within environmental justice and social responsibility is looking at how we can apply an equity lens framework to all of our projects that are moving forward, and how we're monitoring any of our construction projects that are going forward. And then also looking at our work on, last note. Looking at how we can even promote our climate change reporting as we're going forward to ensure that the community is identifying some of the items that we are looking at long term. So real quick, I want to talk about change management. And one of the factors that all of us want to be looking at is this, is that we have a plan written, we have a series of actions that we're planning to take. However, in the middle of this, we want to recognize that there are always going to be a series of things that we have to do. In the Winters report, when they did our kind of cultural audit, one of the things that they did for us was provide a assessment of leadership to think about where we stood in terms of being on the continuum of multicultural mindsets. We tested in a group for both our senior management team and our management team as being in the area of minimization. And so in minimization, the identification of that is our perception of multiculturalism, how we adapt, is that we for the most part are not in a negative space when it comes to thinking about diversity and inclusion, but we are perhaps not as proactive as we could be in terms of dealing with issues. So in thinking about the change management process, as you notice the cycle beginning at the level of denial or disinterest and moving across that into looking at kind of how do we get to our future state, being kind of at the position of minimization means that there are still a lot of areas that we're going to have to tackle in terms of our overall mindsets and how we're dealing with frustrations or challenges which come with the implementation of a lot of this work. The other item that's really significant here is that we continue to improve. At the top of the scale, you'll see this item of adaptation, which is our goal, which is where we are an organization that deals with differences, that fully embraces those differences and looks at how to maximize those. But in getting to that point, we want to make sure that we're looking at not falling into backsliding and looking at this work as a continual work. What we've talked about with our staff is just thinking about this in terms of everyone's personal fitness journey. And that as you get to wherever your future state or your goal is, that you also want to make sure that when you get to that goal, that you continue to have ways to stay there and not backslide back into old patterns of behavior. So we're looking at how do we not only implement these, but how do we continue to build systems and practices that will continue to allow us to develop and not backslide into any practices that aren't positive for us in the long term. So the last slide is our next steps. Next steps, again, where staff will be continuing to work on our REG projects, finalize the DEI strategic plan. The final plan will be distributed to the board on December 14th, and we'll want to have your feedback and come back on January 11th to hear specifically any feedback that you have for staff at that point. Once this is finalized, staff will begin communications and implementation plans as identified in the overall plan itself. And again, at this point, I want to open up to any questions that any of the board members have. Director McIntosh.
Derry, first, as usual, thank you and your staff for all of the good work that you're doing. Second, I know we are seeking to fully implement these plans, I guess, after our January board meeting when we vote on this all inclusively, but you already noted that there were changes in HR already. Do our new hirees reflect these changes? And I'm sure that's something we're tracking. And I'm sorry, my parrot has had a long day too, so she's commenting in the background. And then third and finally, you know, this is such an important project and process. So I would appreciate going forward in the future that it not be tacked on to the end of a long board day, that it goes to a committee, you know, so we can flush it out and really talk about it and have the energy and time to do it. Because after 4 hours sitting in this chair, I don't necessarily have the energy. So I'm asking before that January meeting that perhaps it goes to Leg HR so we can really, Lexus, hang on. So sorry, so we can fully hash it out and discuss it. I'm asking that as just maybe everyone else doesn't feel that way, but I really don't have the energy after a long board day. So please don't tack it on anymore. Put it up front. So it's something that we can really have time and energy to talk about. So those are my comments.
By up front, Lisa, you're saying specifically in one of the morning committee meetings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I would certainly appreciate it, and I think Lexus, my parrot, would as well.
Thank you.
Kyle. On Andy, and then Frank, and then Marguerite.
Thank you for the excellent presentation. As always, I want to make sure that I understand the degree of work that's recognized by the report that will be coming to us, and then to understand what will be coming ahead. It seems like this is not the complete list of each individual initiative. This is a listing of the types of priorities that are being strategically identified based on our working groups. And I commend you for the inclusion and the building out of the integration of so many different diverse voices to be able to come up with these initiatives.
Thank you.
Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, just confirming.
Sorry, go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm that this is not every specific task or activity, but these are general clusters of initiatives. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes.
Thanks. Yeah, I certainly think that there's a lot more to do in the area of supplier diversity. This board has been very interested in contract equity for a long time preceding this effort, and that summary of supplier diversity just seems to hit a little bit off the mark of what our ambition is in terms of really achieving contract equity. There might be more that's meant by supplier diversity in addition to contract equity, which kind of focuses on some specific things. So I would encourage a closer look at that. And of course, this shouldn't be a limit on what we can implement going forward. It's just to identify how important this is to us.
Yes, thank you.
Frank.
So Derry, first I want to do a tip of the hat to Marguerite, who kicked this process off when she was board president, and it's landed in your lap and you've been working very well on it. I'm particularly pleased with the idea that you're not doing just a narrow focus on what we have internally, but recognizing that by looking at things like the intern program, the suppliers contract equity type program, that helps bring people into us. And I'm going to encourage you to develop that even further, because with that, that's how you improve your populations. I work with a lot of nonprofits, and one of the things that they look at is where are they buying stuff from, and that helps them find people to diversify their organization. So in effect, you're, for lack of a better term, you're our first line of recruitment. And Beverly Johnson used to do a heck of a job on that, and that unit did. But I think how you're integrating that with your overall program, will help make it even stronger. So keep going with it. I look forward to when the formal presentation is made, and thank you for staying with it in this tough period of COVID.
Thank you.
Marguerite?
Oh, I thought Andy was next. It's okay. So picking up on, I, again, would add my voice to the chorus of praise for really like seeing this thing, to where it is. And also feel like, Lisa, that, there's, I don't feel like as a board, we've been able to dig in quite as much. And I'm wondering, I was just trying to pull up do my multi-screen thing here. See if I could pull up this. It may seems difficult to imagine doing it between now and January, given the holidays, but whether thinking that early in the day piece is to having a workshop, on this, that's in the morning, you know, we tend to reserve our workshops for budgets and rates, but I can't think of anything that's, you know, this is as important and systemic to what we do, that I'm just wondering whether, even if we adopt the plan, whether there can't be some way to workshop it a bit in a morning, you know, 2-hour morning workshop where we're all, you know, fresh, and where there's that opportunity for, you know, dialogue, going back and forth. And then I'm, you know, I'm even thinking that if it's become something that we do on a, you know, sort of regular basis to move along that curve, Derry, that you showed, that we have workshops that include, you know, people out in our community that come in, like Miss Margaret, or, you know, folks from, you know, West County and in Richmond, and our, you know, people from our, you know, contract equity program, et cetera, to really engage in dialogue. So just sort of thinking like down, you know, how we, you know, evolve this over time. But again, so the one idea would be, could we calendar a workshop, for a morning workshop for it, either probably not before we adopt it, but maybe right after, the month after, to really do more on the kind of getting down into the, you know, to the weeds of implementation.
Yeah, we can look at the timing of a workshop, but we'll start with Director McIntosh's suggestion. In December, we have a Ledge HR meeting. We can have a discussion, a more detailed discussion there, and then look at the options for early next year.
And President Lindy, I have one public comment.
Oh, okay. Let's take that.
Max Pfeffer.
All right, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, and your 3 minutes start now.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Max Pfeffer, and I'm a district employee. I'm currently the outgoing vice president of the Reigning Pride Affinity Group and the president of the upcoming affinity group you heard about today, called the Disability Advocacy and Rights Team, or simply DART. I want to express my disappointment in staff's efforts today to propose a diversity, equity, and inclusion strategic plan without properly engaging the district's affinity groups, specifically Reigning Pride. This is the second time I've come to the board in the past year to express disappointment on excluding affinity groups from the district's planning efforts on DEI. The first time I came before the board was at the Cultural Audit Report Workshop on June 29th, where the Winters Group presented their report. At this meeting, I expressed disappointment in how the Winters Group wrongfully and harmfully represented district data on gender, sex, and sexual orientation. At the meeting, Director Young directed staff to engage Reigning Pride on our issues with both the presentation and the report. Seeing today's update on the schedule for the DEI strategic plan is disappointing because the two affinity groups I'm affiliated with now have repeatedly requested to be involved in the development and review of the DEI strategic plan. The board update today shows that the final draft will be distributed to the board on December 14th for later consideration by the board at the January 11th meeting. Given the schedule, it seems that there won't be adequate time to incorporate our feedback without delaying the schedule. We've been told by staff throughout 2021 that the DEI strategic plan is still in development. I personally don't believe that Reigning Pride has had an adequate opportunity to be included in the review of the plan. To my knowledge, Reigning Pride has not seen any drafts or been asked for our feedback, even on general principles. I encourage the board to direct staff to send the draft plan to the affinity groups, provide time for our review, and incorporate our feedback where appropriate before finalizing the DEI strategic plan. I'm disappointed that this is the second time I've had to publicly raise my disappointment, despite repeated communications to staff about wanting to participate in the development and review of the plan. I also encourage the board to consider not adopting the plan until the affinity groups have been given the opportunity to provide meaningful feedback, including DART, the new affinity group, I should say. One of the main purposes of the affinity groups is to represent and provide visibility to the diverse employees of the district. How can we as a district become a destination employer for diversity without engaging the diverse stakeholders this plan is supposed to help? And lastly, I want to conclude by thanking our staff on their work on the REJ and DEI strategic plan. Both projects are large efforts, and I recognize the complexities of developing them. It may sound contrary given my prior comment, but I do believe that staff are trying their best to create a plan with solid action items to create an inclusive culture at the district. But that doesn't mean we can't improve our inclusion as a district before adopting the plan. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Max. Are there specific things that, other than, not meeting with the affinity group, specific things that you're concerned about that are contained in, or you're seeing in the report?
Well, that's exactly the problem. We haven't seen the report, so we don't know what's in it.
Okay, got it. Can we have staff address this a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. We have not met with all of our affinity groups. However, we have met with our diversity committee, which has representatives from each group. So, so our work has been to keep the diversity committee fully tethered to the progress as we've been going forward. However, we're definitely open to continuing to extend that out to the affinity groups directly as well.
Derry, is there an expectation by people on the diversity committee that are on the diversity committee that they are there as representative of their affinity groups and so should be taking back that information, or is that maybe not said?
That is an expectation, and we've actually had some groups actually from that point invite us to actually come talk about the plan with their affinity groups, and so we've done that in some cases. However, like I said, we can definitely open this up. Our goal is to not be excluding anyone, so we definitely want to make sure that everyone is included. So we can definitely work with the diversity committee to leverage out into the affinity groups to a deeper level.
And are there other affinity groups besides the DART and the Reigning Pride group that have not been met with?
We have, again, we've met with the Black Employee Network. We've had conversations with the leadership of Where's a Latina, and again, we've had participants on the diversity committee from APEA as well. But again, we can leverage that further out and work with those leaders to get the information to the groups on a wider scale as well.
So it's just those two groups?
Yes.
That
in terms of direct contact.
Yes, let's correct that.
Groups.
Let's correct that before the end of the year if possible.
Okay, absolutely.
Please.
All right. Thank you, Max, for bringing that to our attention. Any other speakers?
No other speakers.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
Okay, thank you, Derry.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Derry.
Next, we have just a brief update on our coronavirus activities. We have Dave Briggs here, Director of Operations Maintenance.
Okay, good afternoon, President Linney, members of the board, and thank you, Robin and Risha, for queuing up the presentation. Okay, we'll start with slide 2. So here again, we're showing our local county positive cases over the past year or so, 18 months. And after a rapid decline at the end of the summer into the fall, we've kind of slowed down a bit. Now, it is still trending downward. That's good to see. This more or less matches our own district data, and it also matches a California trend as well. But as I'm sure the board is aware, the California trend is an outlier in the nation. 35 states have double-digit percent increases in COVID positivity rates right now. So we are definitely an outlier. We will see if our high vaccination rate or relatively high vaccination rate, especially in the Bay Area, can insulate us from things going outside and elsewhere in the country. We have 154 positives. We just got our last one this morning, confirmed positives among district employees, 23 contractors, and about a dozen or so employees who are unable to work for one COVID reason or another. That cannot also telecommute.
We have Director Patterson has his hand raised.
Director Patterson?
Hello?
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Bill.
You know, my comment came from before, and I think Marguerite covered most of what I was concerned about. And I'll pick it up later, but it was on the other subject, and I don't want to interfere with this presentation. I think enough got in there to satisfy me.
All right, Bill, I'm sorry if you had your hand up, I didn't see it, but.
Okay,
Go
we'll
ahead, Dave.
proceed here. So on slide 3, I mentioned the vaccination rates, both at the district and elsewhere. So at the top there, we're showing that 88% of district employees are fully vaccinated. And when we include people that are between doses or waiting the 2-week period after their second dose of a 2-dose vaccine to be considered to be fully vaccinated, we're about 91%. And if we include the roughly 8% of employees with approved exemptions, you can see that we're pretty much plateauing out here at 91, maybe 92% vaccination rate for the district. Assuming the status doesn't change with that exempted group, we're gonna top out at about 92%. Alameda County has a very high vaccination rate, impressively high vaccination rate, 94%, or at least partially vaccinated. That is very, very high in terms of other national, comparing nationally. And then Contra Costa County is lower, but that's primarily because just recently Contra Costa County just started to report their vaccination data, including the 5-year age group and older. So because they basically just added a population to their numbers, and they're working their way through that vaccination, those numbers dropped. None of these numbers include booster data, just for your reference. Our vaccination policy hasn't changed. All employees were required to be vaccinated on November 1st, unless they were exempted. And as I mentioned, 91% of employees are either vaccinated or in process of getting vaccinated. About 8% have received approval for their religious or medical exemption. We're showing 158 on this slide, but the latest number is probably closer to 150, so it went down a little bit. And then overall, we're at about 99% of folks that have been either vaccinated or with an approved exemption. That final 1% includes about a dozen or so employees who are on approved leave, and about a dozen or so employees who will enter the disciplinary process.
We have a couple of hands, Dave.
Yeah.
Director Mellon and then Director Coleman.
John, were you before me or?
No,
I don't know. Go ahead, Frank.
Okay. So one of the things I remember after we got the first 2 shots, then we had to do some sort of registry thing, which Risha helped me get through. Are we going to do the same thing with those who have gotten the booster, so that you've got that whatever that registry is?
Right now, Director Mellon, we're not including booster status in the district's definition of fully vaccinated. That could change later, but right now there's no plan to. So right now, you can fill out your verified vaccination form with just the 2 doses of a 2-dose vaccine or the Johnson & Johnson.
Well, I'm already registered, so okay.
You're good.
Just please let us know if we're going to go to the next level. Thank you.
My question was the same as Frank's, and I would think since the FDA is now asking people to get a booster shot, we may want to set that up as the next step in the process. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Director Coleman.
I just want to comment on this, that I think, these numbers are very good. I think it was our hope that we would get to these kind of numbers with our vaccination policy. And I just want to, hats off to Dave and all the rest of the staff who have, I know this has been hard work getting there, and my hats off to all of our employees who have gotten vaccinated and presumably will go ahead and get boosters when the time is right for that. But it makes us all safer, and I just really appreciate this effort. Has not been a small. It's encapsulated here in a slide, but it's there's a tremendous amount of work behind it, and willingness of our employees to go ahead and get vaccinated.
Okay, thank you, Director Linney. So just the final bit here on this slide is that our exempted employees continue to test on district time and district cost. And as I mentioned, about 150 or so are exempted. Some of those are telecommuting. So what this translates to over time, we think we'll be testing about 120 people once we get through everything on a regular basis. And next slide, almost my final slide here. On the regulatory front and really the legislative front as well, not a lot of change. The federal policy on COVID is tied up in court, as the board is probably aware. The state is moving slowly, and our local counties are really operating independently and somewhat inconsistently right now. And so with all of that as a backdrop, our own COVID safety practices at the district are really not changing, and we're waiting for some of this dust to settle, probably until after the holidays before we make any changes with our own safety protocols. Of course, we would follow OSHA when OSHA does make any change. And then lastly, just to intimate what could be happening is that we believe if once we get past this holiday period, vaccinated people could have fewer face covering requirements than unvaccinated. So we think that's certainly part of the future. And here at the district, the unvaccinated employees who are in the exempted group will be wearing face coverings for the foreseeable future. Next steps, we're continuing to meet and confer with unions over the impacts, and we're proceeding with, fortunately, a relatively small number of employees who have not been exempted yet or not been vaccinated. And I'll take any more questions. That's all I have for you today.
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to comment Cliff's letter or address that he sent out to all employees really hit a sensitive note with respect to everything we're going through. And though our success rate has been great, I would just encourage everybody to reread that and really think about it, because we're all trying to pull together in the same direction. And even though some people have a opinion that may be different, that they be respected, and hopefully they fold in. I'm happy to see the numbers as high as they are, and looking forward to getting past this COVID thing one of these days. It has had an impact on a lot of things, including the D&I, and that's what I really wanted to mention before. But we're coming back together, and as we look at this, we can chart our path as a board, because we're not regular employees, we're not there every day. And so some of the concerns that we may have also may be ranked in this. So looking forward to the time when we're all back together and everything is moving forward, and we keep the district whole, keep our thinking process clear, and that will remain a reward for all our endeavors. That's what I wanted to say.
All right, thank you, Bill. Any other questions? Comments? All
I'd
right.
like to, Doug, to just thank our employees for stepping up and doing the right thing. I mean, it's just terrific, and everyone should be applauded. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
Second that.
Third. Agree.
All right.
Thank you to the board, and thank you, Dave. And for our last item, it's the drought update. Our customers are continuing to save a lot of water, and you'll hear about the saving numbers shortly, as well as an update on our water supply, our assistance with Marin Municipal Water District, and our outreach effort. Regarding our assistance with Marin, we did include our draft principles in the memo, draft principles for wheeling, which incorporates feedback that we got from the planning committee. And we also attached to the packet Marin's draft principles as well. And to kick things off, we have Dave again.
All right. Good afternoon again. So just to get things going here, you all know that Risha says pause.
Director Lenny, we have a speaker for public comment. We have Kelly A. I just want to find out what Kelly A is speaking on, if Kelly is speaking on the COVID update or planning to speak on the drought update. Kelly, you should be able to unmute your mic. Which item are you speaking on?
Drought update.
The drought update?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so I'll call your name after the drought update is complete.
Okay.
All right, go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, President Lenny. So just mentioning that the board is aware that we started the water year very favorably with a bang in October. November has been pretty mild, and where that's left us at this point is our upcountry storage is 78% of average, 54% of capacity overall, a little bit better for our local storage here. Another way to look at this is that if you look at where we normally like to be with our carryover storage upcountry, we're about 130,000 acre feet below winter rule curve, where we have to be to maintain flood control capacity. So that's 130,000 acre feet less than we'd like to be at this point, and that's the impact of the drought so far. There are some hints that we could see a pattern change in December, but those are very faint hints at this point, really at the outside of the forecast range, and way too early to count on anything. The other good thing the good thing that's happening at this point is that our demand and our water production has really dropped off. We mentioned this during the last board meeting. We're significantly below where we were last year and during these fall months. And for the fiscal year to date, we're 11% below where we were last fiscal year all the way through the summer and the fall. So we saw this as soon as it got wet in October. We really went into a winter water production mode, went from summer to winter in just a couple weeks. And even with the mild weather we've been having, no one has snapped back into any kind of irrigation habit. So we're still at a really winter level of demand production right now. And we continue to operate Freeport, full capacity. These numbers are through last week, but up until today, we've moved about 12,000 acre feet from the CVP supply. We were about 1/3 of the way through our allocation, and we'll be running this full tilt all the way through February of next year, February of 2022. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Linda.
Right. Good afternoon, President Lenny and members of the board. Next slide, please. Right. As we continue to make plans, if next year is dry, we've been working on water transfer options and purchase agreements. If next year is dry, water transfer could be a critical component of our supplemental supply. So we're doing what we can to get those arrangements lined up. And we'll be bringing to the board for consideration a number of agreements in the upcoming months. The first agreement that we have prepared is an option agreement with Sycamore Mutual Water Company. So a quick background for the board, EBMUD purchased about 4,500 acre feet of transfer water from Sycamore in the last drought back in 2015. And we've been working with Sycamore to develop a long-term water transfer partnership in the future based on land idling or crop shifting. And as a part of this option agreement, EBMUD would have the first right of refusal from Sycamore for up to 6,000 acre feet of transfer water for next year. To secure this option, we would pay $30 an acre feet, which translates to about $180,000 for the 6,000 acre feet, plus additional administrative expenses. And if we purchase the transfer water next year, the option payment that we will make will be credited towards the actual purchase price of the water. And we would have a call date by April 1st next year to purchase the transfer water. We've been working very closely with Sycamore, and we're very close to finalizing the option agreement terms. And we'll bring the option agreement to the board for consideration on December 14th. And let me take a pause and check if there are any questions. All right, and next up is Mike Toglini on regional assistance.
Good afternoon. I'm going to provide an update on regional assistance, specifically our ongoing discussions and work with the Marin Municipal Water District. This slide is just a background of information that the board should already be aware of. Marin is proposing an intertie with East Bay MUD to support public health and safety water supply needs for Marin municipal customers. There's an MOU in place for East Bay MUD to evaluate the feasibility of that intertie. East Bay MUD has already concluded that it has limited capacity in its system to support the intertie. And as the board is aware, concerns have been expressed by community members and the city of Richmond about this project. And East Bay MUD has drafted principles to direct the negotiation of a wheeling agreement that would come forward at a later date between East Bay MUD and Marin Municipal Water District. So I'd like to share with you all the latest version of the East Bay MUD Principles of Agreement for an MMWD intertie for 2022. And these principles include input from the Planning Committee, which at its last meeting, November 9th, provided initial input. There's an opportunity today for additional feedback from the board on these principles, and it is our plan to bring these back to the board for consideration and approval at the next board meeting on December 14th. So just walking through the draft principles for potential wheeling with MMWD. Number one, no financial impact to East Bay MUD and full cost recovery. No water quality impacts to East Bay MUD customers. No reduced level of service to East Bay MUD customers. No East Bay MUD water supplies, including our Mokelumne local or CVP supplies, will be sold to MMWD. No impact to East Bay MUD's ability to prioritize purchase of transfer water. MMWD will not compete with East Bay MUD for water transfers. Next slide. This is the second of 4 slides on principles that we have. So let me get through these, and then happy to take any feedback at that point. East Bay MUD has the right to terminate the wheeling agreement for any reasonable cause as determined by East Bay MUD. There can be no opposition to the project from the city of Richmond. MMWD will perform substantial engagement with Richmond and West Contra Costa County and include East Bay MUD in those meetings. Mitigation for community impacts in Richmond and East Bay MUD service area are considered through an equity lens with follow through on commitments. Next, MMWD should support East Bay MUD customers as a community partner. Examples of include contribution to East Bay MUD's CAP program, full street paving for construction activities, and other partnerships. If East Bay MUD is asking for customer demand reductions, MMWD must achieve water efficiency levels equivalent to East Bay MUD for East Bay MUD to support MMWD in meeting its public health and safety needs. And the last slide of principles, East Bay MUD will make its own determination on CEQA compliance. There should be no significant unmitigated impacts to native fish species, primarily as a result of any transfer that occurs. And if constructed, operation of the emergency intertie may only occur when MMWD has declared a drought emergency and East Bay MUD principles for wheeling are met. See, Director Coleman has a question.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I have one concern. I understand where it's coming from, where it says no opposition to the project from the city of Richmond. And clearly the principles below hopefully would minimize there being any opposition. My concern is it becomes maybe precedent setting when we're looking at wheeling agreements that we may want to have in the future, whether it be this year, next year, the year after, or in a decade, where if there's opposition from a local jurisdiction, and let's say it's water agency X, but they find it's in their interest to do it for whatever reason. But if that becomes part of the criteria, then we may be shooting ourselves in the foot by being able to enter into agreements, whether it be a wheeling or anything else for that matter, on this issue. I think the things that we have established in here in terms of working with the city of Richmond and through the community lens and equity help address it. But my concern is having a entity that is maybe within our jurisdiction, as it is in Richmond, having a veto over a project that may have a benefit because that may be used against us in the future. And that's where my concern lies.
See Director McIntosh has her hand up.
John, yeah, obviously that's a reasonable concern. And the city of Richmond, the mayor has put together an ad hoc committee with individuals from the possibly affected areas and MMWD and East Bay Mud. And that first meeting will take place next week. And I think a lot of those, Richmond's opposition, hopefully, will disappear and will not be a deterrent to this project in the end. If MMWD had been forward thinking, they would have gone to the city of Richmond before they put their foot in the door and got us involved as well. But because they did not, here we are. But all of that hopefully will be rectified next week.
I
don't
agree.
know if that gives you any pause or
no. Lisa, I agree with you what you just stated. My concern is if we have principles of agreement such as this, as something as that one line, that could be used against us on future agreements where we are trying to negotiate something and some outside group could basically veto it for good or bad reasons. And so that's where my concern is having this even in the principles of agreement. I'm hoping that the discussions that you're talking about next week with Marin and the city of Richmond and East Bay Mud and you and others will come to terms. But my concern lies that if we have this as a principles agreement that everybody's agreeing to and we approve it, down the road, we may wish we never had that in there. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, and we're not talking about an outside group. We're talking about the city of Richmond.
No, I realize that, but we
like
have
the city of Walnut Creek or
no,
so it's not a group.
No, I understand that it's an organized, legitimate organization that I agree with. But again, I'm just concerned that if we have something like this that's codified in a resolution, we may regret having something where some group for something that we're looking at doing in 5, 10, 20 years may pull this out and say, well, they did it, therefore we're going to do this. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the city of Richmond is where they want to lay their pipes and their pumping plant, which is very different from a group having some opposition to a project. So if they can't agree with the city of Richmond on where that pumping plant and those facilities go, there actually is no project, John, in this instance only.
I understand that, but when we built Freeport, we had the county supervisor representing the Freeport area who was adamantly opposed, and he tried to kill it, our facility that is benefiting a lot of people besides East Bay Mud now. And if something like this had been in that agreement, this county of Sacramento and the city of Sacramento, we may never have come to terms. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. I just beg to differ. If Richmond doesn't agree, MMWD doesn't have a project.
I happen to agree with you on that. I do, but I just am fearful of putting this in, this language in a resolution.
Let's get some other comments. I have plenty of other board members want to weigh in. Marguerite, want to go ahead?
on the precedent setting, sort of issue, I mean, I think it's political reality that if a impacted jurisdiction like the city council voted to oppose this project, or in the case of Freeport, John, had the Sacramento County Board of Supervisors opposed Freeport, I don't think Freeport would have happened. So maybe it should be more explicit, no opposition, or all parties, all jurisdictions directly impacted by the project must, require support, or lack of, or I guess support is further than opposition, but maybe being more explicit about what it means to be it's not just a city council person disagreeing, or even the mayor, opposing it, but if the city council would need to oppose it in order to be counted as opposition. I don't know. Does that make sense, Lisa? Something like that, where it's more explicitly stated?
I'm actually fine the way
it is. Yeah.
It's the way it is. It's just, we wouldn't even be here having this discussion had MMWD gone to Richmond first. But yet here we are, and it is a political reality. And if we're any more explicit than that, then I think it gets even more difficult, because there are different communities within the city of Richmond. And I don't think we need to be any more explicit than it is, but.
Fair enough.
Frank?
So I think Lisa really hit it on the head when she said it was how this thing was started off and handled. And because it came at us kind of like, an 8-pound sledgehammer, it sure was very unpleasant. And we found ourselves in a position where, we had a problem, and B, one of our cities had a problem. John, I don't disagree with you that this could possibly kick us, but there's a difference. And I think I want to call forward to it. We plan for every step of the way. We anticipate when we're going to need extra stuff done. How many years did it take Freeport to happen? And yes, it was glacial. I think you were there when the first lawsuit was filed, John, but I'm not sure about that. But the point is, Marin came in out of the clear blue and said, okay, we got to put that pipe back across the bridge. And no preparation. And I haven't seen anything to indicate to me that they're preparing for the next drought either, except placing all their marbles in the bag of the pipe. So I think we go with this language because it fulfills our concerns for us, but it also, as we're debating this, says we're sending a message to the rest of the world. We ain't gonna behave like this. We're gonna come and talk and work it out. And so far, it's been amazingly successful. So I understand the concerns on both sides, but I think Lisa's got it nailed.
All right, Andy?
Well, I think the idea that we would approve a project over the objections of an important city that this would be going through is it goes without saying, frankly, that we would not be doing that, at least in my view. But I think it is important to understand where are these principles going. Because whether it needs to be specifically stated in one kind of document that's an initial statement of expectations, if we are going to have such a document, versus a ongoing agreement that will relate to a project after we've already addressed concerns where the opposition may have disappeared because we've actually worked to address concerns, then we don't need to state it anymore. So I think, you know, right now we should agree as a board that, you know, we're only moving forward if there is no opposition from the city of Richmond. But the final written instrument that may occur after we have addressed the city of Richmond's concerns that could raise opposition, if such an event were to occur, you know, and these issues were resolved, then we might not need to say something that isn't relevant anymore. So, you know, I still, you know, I firmly agree that we should only move forward if there is no opposition to the project from the city of Richmond. But of course, if it's no longer pertinent to include the term because all issues have been resolved, then we can address these mitigation issues with that other bullet that addresses the follow through of mitigations and things like that. And maybe we could get clarification from staff about exactly what is the timing and the form of these principles going into anything further.
Sure, I can answer that question. I skipped over one slide, but I'll just jump to the last slide on timing. Is to bring these principles back to the board for consideration of approval at December 14th. And after that, those principles would then provide direction to staff to negotiate the terms of a wheeling agreement, assuming all of the principles are being met and the project appears feasible from an East Bay MUD perspective, and that agreement would be coming back to the board for consideration and your own interpretation of whether we've met those principles, and potential approval of that agreement in a late January or February timeframe.
All right, I've got Bill and then Lisa, and we also have a public speaker still.
I just wanted to inject, because of the way this came about, the planning process, the announcement by Marin, even getting down to the details of what was going forward as if it had been approved, omitted one thing. And that is basically we in East Bay MUD learned to plan from the ground up. That's been one of our strengths. And you have to be very careful, because when you talk about environmental justice, you just lit the flame, because you now have people talking about what's going to be in my neighborhood for how long and how it's going to affect me. So the location of certain equipment, the fact that that equipment could be disturbing to a neighborhood is a factor. You don't have to put the pump next to a residential area or an area that affects people. And those people have a legitimate concern. So it may only amount to where certain items are located in terms of the project. It's that simple. So I just want to throw that out to say, I got a wake-up call, and I'll talk about it later, with the White House Environmental Justice Advisory Council in their virtual meeting, which I attended, 2-3 hour sessions. And it's talking about federal projects and money, and the president's principle of having environmental justice on the front end and making sure that projects get that approval. We've always adhered to that in East Bay MUD. Matter of fact, a couple of people I talked to online were commending East Bay MUD for its sensitivity in this area. And so when I mention this, I'm mentioning it only in the sense that we're already down to a local community concern with an issue that can be resolved and maybe removed from the surface. But we have to let process go through. We can't stamp it in the ground or push it aside. That's the sensitivity that you have in projects. And I just wanted to open the door by saying that. And anytime East Bay Mud is involved, we've done CEQA. We've done anything necessary in many of our projects, whether it was putting in a new treatment plant. We went through that experience in Walnut Creek. I've been to so many meetings and so many sessions where we've met with community and made those adjustments. And the community always came out thanking us, and it's the path we picked for the trucks to run, everything in the process. So I'm just throwing that out to say, think about it a little bit, and let's not get too far afield, because I think we adhere to this all the time, and it's part of our staff's normal process. That's all I have to say.
All right, thank you, Bill. Lisa, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, just one last thing, and that is, so we did ask MMWD for principles coming from their board as well, that match ours, and we've seen that draft, a list of principles from them, and they should be voting on it at any time as well. And they're clearly happy to deal with the city of Richmond and very apologetic that they didn't begin there in the first place. So hopefully we can all have an ad hoc committee meeting and we can get about the business of building this project if that's in the will of the people.
John, you're back up.
I'm back up. I don't disagree with anything anybody has stated. And I hope for the sake of the city of Richmond, if this does happen, that everybody comes to terms in an agreement. And the social environmental justice issues have to be addressed. And clearly, if the city of Richmond were to oppose this project, I can't see this board approving it. I don't. But having stated that, I'm concerned about having that bullet in there and having at some point in the future that we're faced with a similar dilemma that we're doing at no wrong impact or effort of our part, that somebody's going to pull that out and say, well, they used it here, therefore we're going to put it in this agreement, and something of critical importance perhaps for our district is put in jeopardy as a result of that. That's what I'm saying. I don't think, I do believe the city of Richmond would oppose this. Yeah, the board would be voting 7-0 not to do it. I understand that. I just am fearful of having a caveat put in that may be used against us when maybe none of us are on the board in the future when this happens, but it could be used.
Okay, I've got a few more slides on Marin and then turn it over to talk about community engagement related to the drought. Just wanted to mention again that the planning committee had some follow-up requests, as Director McIntosh mentioned. One of them was that we see a copy of Marin's principles of agreement, and those were included in the memo that was sent to the board on this item. The Marin board has been discussing those principles and did so last week, and they have not finalized their principles yet either, but are working toward that. The topics that are covered in their principles include what defines an emergency use for them. The use of transfers would occur after local sources have been used and only if it is sustainable and the water is surplus. Commitment to water efficiency standards, and no impacts to operations of partners like East Bay Mud. The planning committee also asked for information on how MMWD is enforcing its customer water reduction goals, and that is included in our memo as well. They have shifted staff resources, set up water watch patrols that operate 7 days a week, day and night. They have reassigned staff to develop training materials and set up accounting procedures. So they have increased their resource focus on enforcing their community reduction goals. The last thing the planning committee asked for is information on MMWD's long-term water supply planning efforts. We don't have any new information to share with the board at this time, but we will hopefully in the future have some additional information from Marin on its planning going forward beyond this immediate need that they have. Again, this is the slide that I showed previously with the schedule for upcoming board consideration of the principles on December 14th. That would potentially lead to consideration of a wheeling agreement in early 2022. I'm going to turn it over to Andrea Polk to talk about community engagement related to MMWD, but I wanted to point out again that the mayor's ad hoc committee has set a date for its first meeting of November 29th, and East Bay MUD will be participating in that committee meeting along with representatives of the Richmond community and MMWD. And now I'll turn it over to Andrea to cover community engagement.
Great, thank you, Mike. Good afternoon, President.
I'm sorry, just one minor thing, Andrea, before you start. So MMWD is officially MW now, Marin Water. They've gotten rid of the Marin Municipal Water District. So it just jumps at me because I've seen now MMWD on all our slides so many times, and they've made a point of saying they've changed their name now. So for future reference. Sorry, Andrea, go ahead.
Thank you, that's good to know, appreciate it. So we continue to do work to engage the Richmond community and ensure that there is communication and dialogue there. So as I think Lisa mentioned, there's an ad hoc committee meeting, so staff is joining in that, and there are being planned some virtual meetings in various neighborhoods that we'll be participating in. The next door post had already gone out, and we're responding to any questions and inquiries that we get from other communities such as El Cerrito and also Supervisor Joya. Next slide, please. We had our most recent and last Water Wednesday event for this year, and we had about 200 people, join us for the Drought Mythbusters on Wednesday. It went very well, especially I would say the question and answer period was quite lively. And overall this year, we've had 731 participants join us for the Water Wednesday series. Next slide. Some things that are happening regarding outreach for us right now on the website. We've altered our messaging to ask people to turn off their outdoor irrigation as opposed to water a maximum of 3 days a week. On social, we asked our customers to pick their own 5-minute shower song. On digital, we did complete the second round of Pandora ads, and we got over 230,000 impressions, which we're very pleased about. And then in addition to that, there is another campaign called Informed Delivery with the Postal Service. And basically when a customer gets a bill or a piece of East Bay MUD mail, they will also receive a digital ad. So you have to be signed up for Informed Delivery, which I am, for example, and it's actually a great way of reaching people in a new way. Next slide. We continue to get media inquiries. I would say right now the focus is on answering the question of, so how are we doing and how are other water agencies in our area doing? So we've seen coverage about Los Vaqueros, and we've seen coverage about the Marin Water District pipeline and questions about conservation and reservoir levels from a variety of print and TV and also some radio. Done about 90 drought interviews to date, and there are sometimes that we get coverage. They basically look on our website and get the reservoir levels, and they might include us in a regional story, but we don't necessarily do an interview. Next slide. That's it.
Are there any let's go ahead to our speaker.
Kelly A., you should be able to unmute your mic. Your 3 minutes start now.
Yes, thank you very much. This agenda is sloppy, slapdash, ill-defined, and muddy. There are at least 3 separate items crammed together into this one agenda item. First was the drought update. Then there was the Marin wheeling. Now there's the community engagement. What is this? It's sloppy. I do agree with Director Coleman. These wheeling agreements should not be extortionate. The shoe might be on the other foot in the future. If the agreements are too tough or too stringent, it could come back to bite you, make it harder for utilities and irrigation districts to trade water with one another in the future. I think the framework MOU or wheeling agreement ought not to be tied to the water transfer. Then you could just tie it to the capital construction of the pumping plant and the new pipelines in Richmond. East Bay MUD could just take a step back and broker an agreement between Marin and the city of Richmond. And then your hands would be clean. You know, that's what your lawyers ought to be doing. Now, your job is to provide your customers with a reliable supply of water, to secure additional supplies and provide adequate storage. Now, the storage right now, you look good on paper. It looks very adequate on paper. You should get a gold star for that. On the 15% mandatory conservation, looks like you're doing what, 11%? You know, which is not too bad. It's probably a lot better than the average in California. But if you want to compare the worthiness of Marin, last I heard, was doing 24% conservation. So if you guys want to go and impose, goals of goodness and holiness and worthiness on Marin, they're doing real well when it comes to that. They are purchasing additional supplies. You're making plans for a dry year in 2022. You just talked about all your advanced planning, and that has been looks to be going real well. Has been for many decades, and is still going well. But I'm not clear on whether if it's a drought year in 2022, whether you're going to accomplish the cutbacks through mandatory rationing or curtailments or through pricing. So, I'd like to see what the plan is for achieving additional conservation if needed. This $30 per acre foot option with Sycamore for 6,000 acre feet, the market price right now is $750 an acre foot. So be interesting to see what the price is on that. So all in all, this is great planning, great preparation when you're going out and getting additional supply. There are other local water utilities in the Bay Area that are failing to do this miserably. They're whistling in the dark, hoping against hope that this drought ends soon. You're not doing that. You've got plenty of water. You got good supplies. And you're going out and getting more supplies. That's exactly what you should be doing, and you should be patting yourselves on the back for at least trying to get the storage in line, get secure the additional supplies, and do this stuff. But this Marin deal, you should be looking to get out of it, and you should be listening to what Director Coleman is saying. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your comments. Clifford, do we have anything else to report?
We don't have anything else, and I wish the board and all the employees a happy Thanksgiving.
Great. All right, we're on to reports and director comments. Starting first with our committee reports, minutes from the November 9th, 2021 Planning Committee were included in the agenda packet. We are now receiving reports from, we will now receive reports from the November 10th, 2021 Los Vaqueros Reservoir Joint Powers Authority meeting and today's Redistricting Ad Hoc and Finance Administration Committee meetings. Director Coleman, you want to give us an update?
Yeah, I'll be very quick because I need to jump off of here to do something else. We had our meeting for the Los Vaqueros meeting, and Lisa attended it on November 10th. We were both sworn in as members of the Joint Powers Authority. The next meeting is on December 8th, and we chose from the interim a general manager and an interim, the location where the operation of Los Vaqueros will be operating from, so to speak. And that's it. And I apologize if everybody has a great Thanksgiving, but I'm supposed to be someplace right now. So thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, John.
Thanks.
Happy Thanksgiving, John.
Thank you.
All right, we had the redistricting ad hoc meeting this morning, reviewed pretty much all the information with some new maps and I believe some slightly new numbers for the redistricting proposal. The committee reaffirmed its recommendation for proposal 1 And we will be taking that up later. We still have public hearings to be held early next year on that. Finance and administration. That would be Director Patterson. Do you have a report for us on that?
You're muted, Director Patterson.
I had to unmute, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Yes, the Finance and Administration meeting took place this morning. The monthly investment transaction report was approved, and you approved it as a body in the earlier in the meeting. The employee reimbursements of at least $100 or more was reviewed, and it's just great to see so many employees involved in the kinds of things that are facilitated by the district to get their training and all of their credentials and whatnot in place. And the customer assistance program was reviewed. That has many things for us coming in the future because we have to find a way to finance it. And that's what staff is looking into now. They've made some recommendations which we accepted, and real estate seems to be the big one, but we're going to kind of keep that rolling because that's the customer assistance program. It's the social program, an important one. We're losing a lot of people to gentrification. They're going out and some are coming back in. And this program really is the stabilizing force for the district because when people get back into the district, they get back on the rolls and they are paying customers and they are recognized citizens of the United States. Many of them are outside now for various reasons. And I say it a little more today because I got refreshed by the White House conference on environmental justice, and it made me aware of some things that I was interested in this morning as I listened closely to our committee. That's my report, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, Bill. Other items for future consideration, please submit to the general manager. We're now at director comment. Directors have any comments they wanted to make?
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Ditto.
Absolutely.
Happy Thanksgiving. Grateful to be working with you all and grateful for our wonderful employees.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
the joy of Thanksgiving.
Be safe and well.
And it couldn't be more appropriate for prior to Thanksgiving, in between Thanksgiving and Veterans Day, which was observed November 11th, that the district wants to recognize and honor our employees and board members who served in the U.S. military. Thank you for the service. Today, we're going to close our meeting with a thank you to all the district employees and board members for their military service. Their names will appear on screen now before the meeting is adjourned.
This is impressive. What an impressive list.
I'll say, and I recognize more than a few names of people who
Yeah.
came to speak with us this morning. So double appreciation to them. Thank you all. The next board meeting, regular board meeting will be held Tuesday, December 14th at 1:15. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone. This meeting is now adjourned.
Happy Thanksgiving. Bye all.
Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving.